across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's Monday, good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I am your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for 3 full fat hours of breaking news, challenging views and top-flight debate all the way to 10 o'clock. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 03444991000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and you know the drill. I absolutely promise to play your message out. It's Monday, February the 10th. Here's what's coming out. Another day, another disturbing dose of migrant crisis madness. This, folks, is scarcely believable. We've been reporting it all day on Talk, and well, we should. An Albanian crook who did 2 years in jail has been spared deportation, drumroll, because his son doesn't like the taste of foreign chicken nuggets. Our thanks to the European Court of Human Rights and to the idiot judge who ruled that this criminal could stay due to his 10-year-old boy's choosiness on the fast food front. When is this madness going to end? Who are these judges, these balmy beaks who keep making these deranged decisions? What's wrong with them? Do they hate Britain or something? I think they do. 03444991000. In other news, bad times for two-tier Keir after acting swiftly to dismiss his bovine health minister Andrew Gwynn for his horrible WhatsApp messages. Now Starmer has been forced to sack Gormless Gwynn's partner in WhatsApp crime too. So farewell then, 29-year-old Burnley MP Oliver Ryan. Ollie, you're only young, but you're finished, and you thoroughly deserve it, you nasty piece of work. 03444991000. But why do Labour's malevolent MPs hate their white working class supporters so much? What's the reason? What do you reckon? 03444991000. Meanwhile, aren't you sick of this gormless government constantly moaning about having no money? The ceaseless production line of fibs about that alleged 22 billion black hole in our finances that the Tories left them with, allegedly. It's not true, but they keep saying it. And then just giving massive mountains of money away. Nigel Farage is warning that the insanity of handing the strategic Chagos Islands to Mauritius, China's friend, will cost Britain a staggering 52 billion quid, and Mauritius doesn't even want them that much. But in order to persuade them, we're going to give them a fortune. So there goes 52 billion quid. And farcically foolish Foreign Secretary David Lammy, meanwhile, is opening talks with Barbados and the rest of the Caribbean countries with a view to writing them a cheque for slavery reparations worth an astronomical £18 trillion. Barbados alone wants £3.9 trillion. Why don't we just tell these shameless grifters to whistle for it? Come on, don't chuck our cash away when pensioners are freezing and families are struggling. Just Keir, for God's sake, stop this absolute madness. 03444991000. We are borrowing record amounts of money. Never before has this country borrowed so much money. And why is this government borrowing it? So it can give it away to foreign countries. I mean, I call it mad, but I need a stronger word from that. It is insanity on a very, very worrying level. Absolute craziness. But there you go. Let's move on. Plus tonight, Health Secretary Wes Streeting says he wants to end the NHS's woke, quotes, daft nonsense. Good. Then Starmer appoints as Health Minister Andrew Gwynn's replacement, Ashley Dalton, who believes that lie that trans women are women, believes if somebody identifies as a llama, you should say that person is a llama. I'm afraid, Ashley, you're wrong on both counts. That is absolute nonsense. Trans women are not women, and people are never llamas. But while Ashley believes in unscientific claptrap, she does not believe in gendered loos. So that's a good thing, isn't it? No gents and ladies in Ashley's ludicrous world of woeful wokery. And on the day that West made his bold stand, it emerged that the NHS is offering trans men, that's blokes in dresses, the same fertility treatment denied to women on the grounds of cost. How about West just bans NHS staff from asking blokes if they're pregnant as a start-off? If he really wants to get rid of this ludicrous wokery in the NHS, ban the practice of asking men if they're pregnant. If you go for if I went for a X-ray, under NHS rules, they have to ask me if I'm pregnant. Of course I'm not pregnant. I'm a bloody bloke. Blokes don't get pregnant. Wes, you want to stop the wokery? Stop that madness right now. How about that? Make a gesture. Keep just saying things. Do something. What do you reckon? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, Alex Phillips on Labour's bonfire of the insanities. Why can't Keir's crew get anything right? 0344 499 1000. Ali Ross on the wonder of triumphant Trump. Taylor Swift bemused as to why the Super Bowl crowd were all booing her and cheering Donald. Well, Taylor, I'll tell you why. It's because he understands the American people, and you, with your little Hollywood left-wing liberal claptrap, don't. Got it? 0344 499 1000. And finally, a deep dive into modern British policing and everything that's wrong with it. Why did the cops allow a diligent police constable to end up in court after knocking two marauding little thugs off their e-bikes? Wasn't he just doing his job? Why did he have to stand trial? The police should have protected him, shouldn't they? This is what's wrong with the police. It looks after the bad guys and chucks the good guys under the bus. 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday night together. And for the first hour at the beginning of this week, it's going to be a week, I can tell already. With me in the studio is political commentator and, of course, my fellow Talk presenter, Russell Quirk. Welcome, Russell.
Good evening. There's a lot to be irritated by, isn't there?
Oh, my God, yes. Let's start, shall we? Honestly, folks, you probably noticed, I think it's now about 4 days in a row, dating back to about last Wednesday, extracting the weekend, when you all have to struggle by without my shows for a whole 2 days. Must be tough for you, I know. But seriously, for now about 4 days in a row for this show, I've led. My top story has been yet another deranged decision by our immigration courts. Either the initial decision or an appeal. The government, to be fair, the Home Office is always trying to deport people, and then these lunatic judges these left-wing judges, they're obviously Guardian readers. Don't forget, folks, that the establishment in Britain now is left-wing. Left of wing is where the establishment is. The Guardian, the BBC, all of those people. Those of us who aren't quite left wing, we're the outriders, we're the rebels these days. Don't you worry about that. These judges are symptomatic of the culture of this country now. So we've had paedophiles allowed to stay in this country because they got their own kids and they've got a right to a female life. We've got a rapist. Last week we reported on a Ghanaian rapist, got 6 years in jail for raping a British woman at his flat in Watford. He did 6 years, and when he came out, not only was he allowed to stay, he was awarded substantial damages, more than £100,000, because at one point during our attempts to deport him, we put him in the wrong kind of detention centre. We put him in a deportation centre when he should have been in a prison. So we gave him more than £100,000. Last week, we gave a woman £150,000, a Pakistani woman. All these people who broke into our country illegally, we gave her £150,000 for the same reason, because she said that we treated her like a criminal, Russell, and she broke into this country. She came here on a student's visa and deliberately outstayed that visa. Now, that is against the law. When you break the law, you're called a criminal. She was a criminal. This country has just paid her £150,000 for treating her like a criminal. Do you see where I'm going with this? And now, Russell, this arrant insanity, this lunacy, that a guy who comes here in 2001 under a false name and lied that he was from the former Yugoslavia. Despite that lie, despite that illegal attempt to break into our country, we, of course, in 2007 gave him citizenship. Then a couple of years later, 2010-ish, he went to jail for 2 years because he was caught with £250,000 in cash that he couldn't account for. This was deemed not unreasonably to be the proceeds of crime. So he went to jail for 2 years because he had £250,000 in cash he couldn't account for. When he came out, he should have been deported. Priti Patel said, "Get out of the country. We don't want you here." Quite right. Well done, Priti, for once. But he appealed. And then he appealed again. His first appeal failed. Second appeal has just succeeded on the basis that he's got a son who apparently is a vulnerable kid. Apparently he's got a few challenges in life. He's 10 years old. And if they go abroad, he likes chicken nuggets, but he doesn't like the taste of foreign chicken nuggets. So if they send him back to Albania, he'll be forced to struggle by without the delicious taste of British chicken nuggets. So for that reason, he's been allowed to stay. I barely know where to start there. Do you?
It's like yet another April the 1st immigration story, isn't it? But as you say, that they are becoming much more frequent. The liberal judiciary here, who of course are effectively channeling the European Convention of Human Rights here. That's really what this is all about. So when the convention was looped into British law in 1998, thanks to our friend Tony Blair, it meant that the British Human Rights Act had to reflect the European Convention on Human Rights. So that is still in place despite Brexit. That did not unwind itself despite that vote in 2016. So what we now have is this liberal interpretation by our judiciary, particularly these tribunal judges, who, as you say, are activists, lefties, yoghurt knitters.
They don't like this country. I think they see themselves as being at war with a repressive, racist regime here in awful Britain.
But they're the same people.
Typical Guardian
We're the same
readers.
people that we see marching through the streets saying, you know, all refugees welcome. And when some, you know, clever centre-right journalist goes up to them and says, well, do you have any living in your house? They say, oh no, my house isn't big enough, or oh no, I rent and I'm not allowed to. They're those types of people. So they think that they're doing the right thing by way of virtue signaling. And the problem is, of course, as judges, they're largely unaccountable. You know, no one can do anything about these judges' decisions. Except I would advance, actually, that we either come out of the ECHR and we unhook it from the Human Rights Act in Britain, or what we should do is like we do in the States, or they do in the States, which is to make these judges elected. And if they keep making stupid decisions, then they lose their tenure, because clearly what these judges are doing in terms of allowing someone to stay here, despite the fact that he lied about where he came from, he's clearly a convicted criminal, he's lied left, right and centre, so he's effectively committed immigration fraud without any doubt at all. You know, this person's been allowed to stay because of this overtly liberal judge. And the fact that we've got a Home Secretary in Priti Patel, back in the old days, the Home Secretary would make a decision either on a sentence that was given to someone or on a deportation order, and that was gospel. That was it.
Bloody
That's
wasn't.
changed.
It never has been.
No. Well, no, the Home Secretary...
Once it goes to the tribunals, it's gone.
No, the Home Secretary used to have the discretion to say, so in the case of Axel Rudabakana, that sentence being seen as overtly lenient, the Home Secretary could step in and say, yes, I will review it.
But the Home
make
Secretary
a decision.
hasn't got the right to
because of the ECHR. No, because of the ECHR.
Well, no, it's because of the courts. Because
the courts are bound by the ECHR.
Decisions do not supersede, do not trump the decision of a judge.
But my point is they should.
Yeah, I agree with that, but they don't, and they never have.
Yeah.
They never have.
So, if the spectre here is the ECHR, which I'll remind everybody, Kemi Badenoch, in her run-up to be the Conservative Party
wants to
leader,
stay in it,
would
folks.
not commit to leaving
She
it.
doesn't want to leave it.
I know.
She doesn't. She says it's too...
So you and I will continue to talk about these travesties every week.
Yeah.
Every week. Forevermore.
So all that happens is these shyster immigration lawyers, you know, all make a lot of money, legal aid. By the way, you know, we pay for all these cases. So this guy who's been allowed to stay, as of now, the case is still continuing. Hopefully common sense will prevail in the end, but he's been through 2 appeals, and as things stand, he's allowed to stay because the judge says, well, you know, the kid likes English chicken nuggets. We can't force him to eat Albanian chicken nuggets, so he must be able to stay. But mainly it's the ECHR, as Russell says. So we're paying for all this. This is hundreds of thousands of pounds. So apart from everything else, we pay for these people's legal aid. So they come here, they break into our country, they break our laws, they go to jail, they get very high paid lawyers to work their case, then to work the appeals against their deportation, and we pay for it. I would suggest we stop paying for it. Why don't we say, you want to come to this country, you better have enough money to pay for your lawyers. If you can't, tough luck. But I would say, even better than that, I would say you break into our country without the right documentation on an illegal vessel. You are hereby a lawbreaker, you are detained, and you are going home. Try that.
But this Clevis Dishar, whatever his real name is, has broken the law not once, not twice, but 3 times. Broken into the country illegally, lied about the fact he's from Albania, because obviously he knew that wouldn't give him as much traction when it came to his asylum case, and then committed crimes to accumulate £250,000 in cash. Now, there used to be a thing called an outlaw, which is if you committed breaches of the law, you were then outside of the law. How can someone that's committed not 1, not 2, but 3 acts of criminality be allowed to go through the appeal process in the first place? They just shouldn't be allowed to.
Absolutely. And Kemi, if you're watching, and all you people in the Tory opposition, the remainders of the Tories in Parliament, you know this. If you don't leave the ECHR, and if you don't start getting tough on these migrants, you're even more toast, you're even more history than it already looks as if you are. Because the Tories are looking as if they're flatlining, and it's partly because you've got a damn leader who, when people say we're going to leave the ECHR and make our own decisions about migrants, turns round and snobbily says it's a little more complicated than that. It never is. It never is. When Westminster politicians, for that matter Washington politicians, they're always on the left and they start saying it's a little more complicated, it's very complex. It's not. They're just trying to enshrine their left-wing claptrap. It isn't complicated to leave the ECHR. Oh, but it's enshrined in the Equalities Act. Unenshrine it. It's not difficult. Simple as that.
Can I just add a couple of things? First of all, if you look at the Daily Mail article here, this Albanian Clevis Dishar is now 39. He came to this country illegally when he was 15.
I know.
He's been here illegally for 24 years and been a criminal in that time. Here's something else I'd like to suggest.
Well, not technically, because he was given citizenship in 2007. But
despite coming here illegally.
Yeah, but we gave him citizenship,
Stupid.
so he wasn't... Yeah, I know. They break it. That's what happens.
Stupid.
They break into the country,
but mate,
then we give them
thing.
citizenship.
I'm going to suggest something else, right? That what the judge should consider is a whip round of people like me and you. I'm quite happy to pay for his kids' chicken nuggets forevermore until he's 18, let's say, on the basis that he can still be deported. We will ship him the McCain's chicken nuggets or whatever he wants on a weekly basis for him to consume every day, if that is the difference between getting rid of them or not.
It's a thought, but I would say sod him and sod his chicken nuggets and sod his dad. Get out of the country. You're not welcome. Why don't we do that? What do you think, folks? 0344 499 1000. When is this deranged insanity going to end? It is just beyond the pale. Let me know what you think. And when we come back, we're going to talk about this bovine, now former Health Minister Andrew Gwynn, a complete moron. who I think is representative of far too many Labour MPs who are elitists, who look down on their white working class supporters. Why do they do that? We'll try and work that out. Why do you think it is? 03444991000. That next. Stay where you are.
Why on earth are we being run by people who allow this kind of nonsense to go ahead? It's the page one story in the Telegraph today. An Albanian criminal who can't be deported despite being a recidivist criminal and somebody who has committed multiple crimes here since he became a British citizen many years ago in 2006 or 7. He can't be deported to Albania because his 10-year-old son doesn't think he'd like the chicken nuggets there. He only likes British ones. I kid you not, this is actually a story in this country in 2025.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
What are we going to do about a system, a legal system in this country, that accepts as a plausible excuse for a criminal, an Albanian criminal, to stay in this country, to not be deported despite the fact he's done 2 years in prison? A system that accepts as a plausible excuse, well, if I have to go abroad to Albania, my son doesn't like the taste of foreign chicken nuggets. And the court goes, fair enough, yeah, well, you can stay. What are we going to do about that? It's got to stop, hasn't it? And if these judges are going to make these decisions, we're going to have the right to sack them. Your thoughts, please. 03444991000. Now let's talk about Andrew Gwynn. Until early yesterday, I believe he was the health minister. Quite a firebrand he is for Labour as well. He's come up from the Dreaming Spires, you know, up there in the north. And he really does feel that he's the big guy in the bunch up there. He's been leading this WhatsApp group now for several years in which they pour a bucket all over their traditional white working class supporters, a big dose of traditional Labour anti-Semitism, racism against Diane Abbott, you name it, he's done it. Anyway, quite rightly, he's been found out by the Mail on Sunday and he's gone. It turns out that one of his young devotees was the 29-year-old wonder kid, Oliver Ryan, MP for Burnley, going places, a real firebrand of Labour of tomorrow, except he was in this WhatsApp group making similar nasty messages. If you're watching, Ollie, you are only 29, but you are finished. Good, because you deserve to be. So, we know this is what they do. This is indicative, Russell, of the Labour Party, the modern Labour Party. The Labour Party was formed to help the working classes, to help the poverty-stricken, the underprivileged, get a decent crack in an unfair country, in a class-ridden country. Good, good, good. What is it now? It's just a bunch of privately educated North London Oxbridge types, debating Marxism. And they actually hate the white working class. They hate all of that stuff about improving the lot of the lower orders. They're not interested in that. So they've morphed into this party that doesn't care about its supporters. And that was what was revealed, right, in Andrew Gwynn's disgusting WhatsApp messages about wishing that an old lady of 72 would die before the next election, of anti-Semitic comments about a guy with a Jewish name, is Ian Mossad or something like that, and also racism about Diane Abbott and sexism about Angela Rayner performing some kind of sex act and so on. And so none of this is all rubbish. It's all the sort of febrile mind of these juvenile idiots. So both Andrew Gwynn and Oliver Ryan have been kicked out of the Parliamentary Labour Party today. They've had the whip taken away from them. As of now, they're independent MPs, and they're being investigated with a view to dismissal from the party altogether. So, to be fair to Starmer, he's done that correctly. He's moved fast and they fully deserve it. But why is it that so many Labour politicians think like this? It started with that view that if you voted Brexit, you're a gammon, you're a moron. Then we saw it with Gordon Brown in that election he lost because a perfectly reasonable pensioner was complaining about migration, and he was overheard going, that bigoted woman, she wasn't a bigoted woman. Don't forget Emily Thornberry, when she went to Thanet once, took a contemptuous picture
and tweeted it
of a house covered in St George's flag, the view from Thanet. This is their problem. They don't like their own supporters.
Well, it's the epitome of champagne socialism, is what it is. And of course, because champagne socialism, I would argue, actually, it's been alive and unwell since the likes of Derek Hatton. Do you remember Derek Hatton in Liverpool? The man that drove around. What?
I made him.
Go on.
I put him on the front page of the Sun every day.
Well, and do you remember his Mercedes or his BMW, I think he had, with the registration number Degsy?
Yeah, who revealed that story?
You probably.
Yeah.
There you go.
World exclusive.
So,
Champagne socialist Degsy. Yeah.
There you go. So this is my point.
Who gave me that story?
So when was that?
Who gave me that story?
I don't know.
Derek Hatton.
Did he?
Yeah,
okay.
You like to be on the front pages, old Degs.
Well, I think he was ground zero, really, because he was the well-heeled, sharp.
But he wasn't. But to be fair to Derek, he was working class. He actually did have some interest in the working classes. He's not one of these Guardian reading North London lawyers.
But what we all should remember,
piece of work, but
we should remember the Labour Party as being the party of the likes of Callaghan, Wilson, Dennis Healey, and so on. Say what you like about those guys, they were for the working class. They might have been financially and economically illiterate, but they were for the working class. What's now happened since is these Oxford, Cambridge educated grammar school kids, effectively, that come from wealthy families that almost are in this kind of politically rebellious mood, where mummy ignored them, daddy was always out earning loads and loads of money. So they've ended up almost as this resentful, wealthy class that therefore happens to be left-wing. And that's now translated into the very very same people that get selected as MPs and therefore as ministers and so on. Of course, they're snobs. They are the political bourgeoisie.
They hate their own supporters. Now, this was in happier days for Andrew Gwynn. It's when he went on to Sky News and decided to sort of display his credentials, his kind of fiery credentials in a big bust-up with Boris Johnson. Funnily enough, it was about the winter fuel allowance, which Andrew was convinced that evil Tory Boris would axe. Oh, he didn't axe it though, did he? It was evil Keir Starmer who axed it, evil Rachel Reeves. But anyway, watch this.
We want managed immigration. We are leaving the European.
I'm not hearing an answer.
We are leaving the European Union.
Are you leaving the customs union?
We are leaving the European Union.
I asked him this last time.
Boris,
remember? I asked him this last time.
Boris, I'm sorry to say
I'm so sorry. Go on.
Don't be a pillar.
Come on. You're leaving the customs union.
No, Boris.
You're not leaving the customs union.
Boris, can you please tell people?
Are you leaving the customs union?
Can you please tell the pensioners what is happening to their winter fuel allowance? How many of them are going to lose it?
I haven't heard. Well, that obviously is
10 million?
but that is
10 million?
That is
Okay,
to be.
Mr. Johnson,
that is obviously.
Well, there's a lot of water under the bridge since then on both their parts, but that thing about the winter fuel allowance, I mean, Andrew Gwynn is the epitome of Westminster stupidity, isn't he?
Well, and hypocrisy. I think Andrew Gwynn voted as a parliamentary Labour Party member to get rid of the winter fuel allowance.
Honestly,
only very recently, Andrew Gwynn, didn't you?
Piece of crap.
Honestly.
Piece of crap.
It's sinister hypocrisy is what it is. And also, I have to say, it's another example of the uni party, which is countless politicians over the years and decades saying whatever they need to say to curry favour and power to get elected and then to stick their two fingers up at us once elected. Boris, Gwynn, Starmer, I mean, all of them, the uni party, they're all the same.
Yeah, exactly right, exactly right. So where's the Labour Party gone wrong? Why does it hate its own supporters? Why would an MP, this was a lady in his constituency up north saying, now you're the MP, I thought I'd write to you about bins, the bin collection. A lot of people, particularly old people, really worry about bin collection. I worry about bin collection. Not enough, but I do worry about it. It's just a perfectly nice letter, and he writes to his mates, hope she effing dies before the next election. I mean, what a nasty thing to say. What is wrong with this guy? I mean, this is typical of that party. They hate their own supporters. They want to be in North London dinner parties discussing Marxism, don't they?
Yeah, they're the political elite, and they have absolute contempt for their, not just voters, but for their own voters, those that normally vote for them. And can we also just recap? I mean, I think...
Mind you, Gwynn's not from the elite. He went to some Salford University.
Well, yeah, but he wants to be, doesn't he? Wants to be,
yeah.
But Gwynn and Ryan...
He did go to Oxford. It was the best day trip he's ever had.
Yeah, went to Oxford Brookes, probably. But Gwynn and Ryan...
Not even that. Couldn't get
They
anywhere.
are, I think, the 6th/7th members of the Labour Party since the election to have the whip removed, in addition to the 6 or 7 that had the whip removed because they voted against Keir Starmer in one of the first votes of, in fact, the first vote, I think, of this this Parliament. The likes of Tulip Sadiq, Louise Haigh, Mike Amesbury. He's the one that decided to punch the lights out of one of his own constituents, if you remember.
He's gone already, I think.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah, but they are only 7 months into government, and already we've had...
Tell you what, if I meet that bloke Mike Amesbury personally, I'm not going to debate it with him. I've knocked that guy out. He's got a good punch on him.
Carried on when the bloke was on the floor.
It wasn't the best career move, but he he floored that guy like a deck of cards.
But I know we're not glossing over it because we have talked about it incessantly on Talk. But this is, I think, now 7 members of the Labour Party that have had the whip removed because of some kind of indiscretion, some kind of, whether it be a history of fraud or suspected corruption or violence, or now wishing pensioners dead. We're 7 months into this government.
It's a good point, Russell. This is what should be discussed. Let me know what you think. So, to some extent, I've got some sympathy with Starmer. In fairness, he moved fast on both these issues, Andrew Gwynn and Oliver Ryan. They're gone. and will be kicked out of the party. So he did move with some speed, and now they're all boasting about it. All his acolytes are all on the media all day. Oh, Mr. Keir moved with remarkable speed. He won't put up with this. Well, what about his judgment
in the first place?
What about his judgment in the first place? Didn't he know Andrew Gwynn was a piece of crap? Why didn't he know that?
Well, he knew, apparently, that Shu'lib Sadiq...
He clearly was.
He knew that Shu'lib Sadiq was embroiled in some alleged impropriety with regard to her Bangladeshi connections. He knew, apparently, that Louise Haigh had been convicted of fraud, but still made her not just a minister, but a cabinet secretary.
A secretary, yeah.
His lack of judgment. But again, is it just arrogance? Does he know these things? It's not just lack of judgment. It's just, well, to hell with the public. I don't care what they think. I'll do what I want. I'll do what I want.
Yeah, I think you're cutting him too much slack. I think he's a bit stupid and makes terrible mistakes.
Could be that.
There's no planning in here. He's just cocking it up, staggering from one crisis to the next, one self-made crisis to the next. We're going to break next, and when we come back, we're going to talk about why this Labour government keeps giving away vast sums, keeps moaning about the financial black hole, and then gives away billions and billions. Again, what is going on, folks? Why is this government so absolutely barking mad? 0344 499 1000. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Russell. I'm still with Russell Quirk, by the way. Let's talk about this strange government and their propensity for giving away money. As we all know, ever since they came into power back in July, was it only then? July the 5th. They'd be like, oh, there's a £22 billion black hole in the nation's finances left by the Tories. As you note from that voice, that could either be Keir Starmer or Robert Reeves. They both have the same kind of voices, don't they?
Despite years of voice coaching.
Yeah, if nothing else, we should get rid of them because of their voices. I think they've been coached into speaking like this.
Do you think they were talking normally?
It's a reverse Pygmalion thing.
So who was the voice coach?
They both spoke normally until their voice coaches got hold of them.
Who was the voice coach, a Dalek?
Well, it was that woman, Leonie Mellinger. Can't imagine this is very good advertising for her business, is it? By the way, big question, is she a very close family friend of the Starmers? Could that be why she was knocking around London during the middle of the lockdown on Christmas Eve 2020? Was it just a voice coach lesson, or was it a drink with a friend? You know, because those lockdown restrictions, they were for us, they were for the little people, not for important people like Keir Starmer.
Because it's also...
and indeed Boris Johnson.
It's also very odd that the Labour Party won't reveal who paid for the voice.
Yeah, they won't reveal who paid for it either.
It's funny that, isn't
also,
it? Maybe no one paid.
Have you noticed also in terms of what people... So, they won't reveal who paid for the voice coach lessons for Keir Starmer. That means almost certainly it's the taxpayer.
Or no one. Or there was no payment levied because it was a drink with friends.
Well, let's see, yeah. And also, in the annals of... You know, when MPs, when politicians refuse to deny something, it means it's true. So, Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, has been quoted today contemptuously saying that the Prime Minister couldn't run a bath, that Keir Starmer couldn't run a bath.
Well, she's right.
Laura Kunsberg put this to her, and I think we got a clip. Can we find that? It was, and she refused to deny it. So we'll play you that in a little while. So, in other words, the Deputy Prime Minister, I think we got it now. Let's play it now.
He's his own worst critic.
He would be, yeah, absolutely.
But a new book reports that you said he couldn't run a bath. Did you say that?
Well, I'm not, you know, there's a lot of things that were said in that book that I don't recognise, to be honest.
So
and
did you not say that?
And it's tittle tattle, so I don't recognise what was said in that book.
But that's not tittle tattle. That's what the woman who's now the Deputy Prime Minister is reported to have said about the now Prime Minister.
Sure, and there was lots of other things that people have said about me or anyone else, and no, I don't recognise ever saying that to anybody. But we all have frustrations when we're at work sometimes, and I'm sure people have been frustrated with me at work sometimes.
Yeah, translation of that is I did say it, and I'm not going to actually deny saying this. The smart thing for her to do, the obvious thing would be to say, no, I absolutely didn't say it. I'll tell you why she's not denying it, is because she fears she might have been recorded.
Yep.
So she did say it. She fears she might be recorded, and if she said, no, I didn't say it, somebody say, well, you did. And that would be toast for her. So she did say that Keir Starmer couldn't run a bath, which is one of the very few accurate things Angela Rayner has ever said. But anyway, here's the main point, Russell. They talk about this £22 billion financial black hole. They talk about being left with so little money. We had to have this massive budget, you know, because the Tories have ruined the finances. OK, so let's just accept their premise that they don't have much money, and that's a difficult pitch to bat on if you're a government. OK, fine. Why then is David Lammy now currently, he's just started negotiating slavery reparations with the Caribbean. Barbados alone is demanding £3.9 trillion, you know, because they used to have plantations, and 300 years later it's about time we compensated them. Altogether the Caribbean countries want 18 trillion. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage now estimates that our ludicrous deal to give away the Chagos Islands to China's friend Mauritius will in the end cost us a staggering £52 billion. Meanwhile, we have a £15 billion standard foreign aid budget, but this year we're giving away an extra £11.6 billion for special green projects for developing countries, and of course then there's the £22 billion that Ed Miliband is going to waste on a fatuous carbon capture scheme in Liverpool that won't work. These are vast sums, folks, and don't forget, Russell, this country is now borrowing more money than it ever has.
Yep.
It's our national debt is astronomical. So in effect, this useless, mad, insane, incompetent government is borrowing vast amounts of money, edging this country towards bankruptcy. And what's it doing with that money? It's giving it to foreign countries. I don't know where to start, do you?
So let's deal with the black hole first of all. So
well, it's not true.
Well, this is the black hole that magically seemed to appear about a week into the Labour government, despite the fact that the books, the government books, the public books are open to the opposition for months and months and months before an election. So it should not have been a surprise.
Well, they made it up. They made it up. The Financial Times put in a Freedom of Information request.
And they didn't reply.
To the Treasury saying, can you you break down the £20 billion, they can't.
Even more compelling was the fact that the Office of Budget Responsibility, which basically is the arbiter of government finances, has said it cannot find the black hole.
Well, that's what I just said. That was what was in the Financial Times.
It doesn't exist, right? So even if you accept that exists, which we don't, why would you then go and spend? I mean, and you've listed a whole bunch of stuff there that adds up to billions, but don't forget the government have also, since last week actually, have said that they're also going to fund local authorities' council tax deficit to the tune of £70 billion over the next few years. And don't forget the public sector pay increases. That was another £6 billion. Why on earth, unless you were stupid or lying, would you go and spend upwards of £100 billion on extra things when you've already said there's no money because there's a £22 billion black hole? Literally, it doesn't add up. So I don't know who's doing the numbers here at the Labour Party. Maybe Diane Abbott's at the Treasury, is she?
And don't forget we gave the NHS an extra £25 billion as well this year, because we usually give it about 190, £200 billion. That's standard. This year, West Streeting, this great cleaner-upper of the NHS, gave them an extra 25 billion quid. Never give the NHS extra money, because the NHS, it's like a seal at feeding time, you know. All they want is money, money, money. Give them money. And once you give them the money, it'll swallow it and you'll never see it again. You might as well set fire to it. So West Streeting has made that mistake. But on the domestic front, I mean, profligate overspending, typical Labour. But, you know, which is, reprehensible. We need to criticise it. But what I think where it really comes into stark focus is these vast amounts of tens of billions, 20 billion, billions and billions of pounds going abroad.
Well, there's the deficit now, and I don't mean the deficit as most people would know. The deficit now is the difference in what is spent on British people in Britain, so pensioners, waspy women, and so on, versus the deficit in terms of what is now spent on giving money for climate aid to other countries. And let's not forget the Ukraine. Now, whether you agree with us funding the Ukraine or partly funding the Ukraine in their fight against Russia or not, that is tens of billions of pounds. Now, when you borrow more and more money, what then that happens is you become less stable as a country, which means the interest rate on that money increases, which means that everyone's mortgage rate in this country also increases. So Labour, and it is in their DNA, we know that, by taxing and spending and bloating the public sector, basically to make sure that they get public sector votes forevermore, they are putting us in a position where they literally are going to take us to the verge, if not beyond, of bankruptcy.
Yeah, and for all you who don't have mortgages, you're just getting taxed to the hilt. So, yeah, you're paying for all of this. 03444991000. They moan about not having any money, and yet they are giving away untold billions abroad, and as Russell quite rightly says, they're wasting untold billions here at home as well. They're an economic basket case, they really are. Borrowing suicidal amounts of money. You know, these are the kind of amounts of money that could bankrupt the country. You know, if it was desperation stakes, so okay, well, you probably need it or whatever. It's not. It's to give it away.
Well, can I just give you a quick number? The budget of Britain is about 850 billion, right? That's what comes in. That's basically what the budget of Britain is in terms of what we spend. The interest now on our debt is getting towards £100 billion a year. So an eighth of everything that comes into this country in tax revenues is going to go out and be spent on servicing our debt.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So your thoughts on that? 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to talk about the dynamic new health secretary. He's not new anymore, is it? He's got to stop making speeches and start doing something. West Streeting. He says that all the woke daft nonsense has got to stop. We'll see about that. Good luck with that, Wes. That next. Stay tuned.
Oliver Ryan was one of those younger faces, and presumably he's going to be suspended later on today, is he?
Well, he's got a meeting with the chief whip. Imagine coffee without biscuits, that one. It wasn't like a safe space for someone to rant or vent with their pals. This was a group of Labour councillors, activists, and local Labour bigwigs. So it was, in all intents and purposes, a work environment. Yeah. And the fact that no one called him out for, like, as you say, identifying someone for sounding a bit Jewish or something like that, really is almost as bad as the person that said it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Wes Streeting. He wrote a very powerful piece in The Sun on Saturday. I read it, sitting on my sofa as it rained. And it was quite good. He said that we've got to stop all this woke nonsense. Daft nonsense, he called it. And you know what I'm talking about. The way that the NHS won't say the word woman, refers to pregnant women as pregnant people, won't say that only women have cervixes, people with cervixes, people who menstruate. It's got this kind of allergy to the word woman, sexist in other words. So all of that crap. And the nonsense that men who go for an X-ray, all men, James Wales having to suffer it all the time now. Blokes go for a X-ray. James Whale, you know what James Whale, it could be me, could be Russell, just as absurd. James Whale, hello Mr. Whale, are you pregnant? Now,
I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
If Wes Streeting is serious, that would be a good place to start. From now on, you don't ask blokes if they're pregnant. That would be a good way to start stopping the madness, wouldn't it? But he's not saying that. How about reducing the number of diversity officers costing the NHS £40 million from, 800 to, round kind of figure, 0. Like Donald Trump. How about that? That would save 40 million quid. Can I have some doctors, nurses, make the service better? How about that? Meanwhile, though, of course, his health minister, his number 2, was one Andrew Gwynn, the WhatsApp monster who sends nasty messages about his constituents, anti-Semitism, racism, you name it. Andrew was guilty of it. Anyway, he's been sacked, so he's got a new health minister in charge. There's a new health minister in town. And her name, folks, is Ashley Dalton. And this is Keir Starmer's brilliant appointment. Ashley Dalton believes that trans women are women. They're not, actually, Ashley. They're not. Women are women. Trans women are men. And she also doesn't believe in gendered loos. She doesn't, no gents, no ladies, not in her world, no sirree, Bob. And also, she believes that if someone, she said this, someone identifies as a llama, they are a llama. So, that is our new health minister. So, also, Russell, on the day that Wes Streeting wrote this article in The Sun, which was on the face of it, ostensibly quite good, quite sensible, it emerged that trans men, the NHS is offering trans men the same fertility treatment. I suppose if they can pretend to have babies or something, I don't know what it's about. The same fertility treatment that is being denied to real women on the basis of on cost grounds.
So this would be a trans man that now looks like a man but is really a biological woman. They're giving them the...
Well, no, not a biological woman, biological man.
No, if it's a trans man, it will be a woman.
Oh, right, yeah, so gotcha.
A real woman. So what they're saying is if you're a woman, you can't have the fertility treatment, but if you're a man, a woman that looks like a man because you now identify as a man, because we're so right on and woke, we feel that we have to give you the treatment because otherwise you'd say that we were transphobic.
Yeah,
it's absolute nonsense.
Absolute nonsense. And we now have a health minister who believes that if I say A, I'm a woman, then I am a woman, or B, that I say I'm a llama, I am a llama. Well, actually, I've got bad news for you. I'm actually neither. But that kind of insanity enshrined in an important position like health minister, no thanks very much.
But there's that, but also, you know, I mean, some would say, yeah, but this is all just a bit rubbish and nonsense. It's just, he's sugarcoating the problems within the NHS. You know, we've got far more problems where waiting lists are concerned, diagnosis rates, the fact that, you know, I don't think our cancer cure rate has improved much over the last 10 or 15 years. We've got much bigger fish to fry, I think, in the NHS. This, by the way, this sounds like a leadership bid to me. I don't know about you, Kev. This sounds like he knows...
Oh, he's been doing that for some time when he attacked Farage the other week.
Exactly. And this is the second time in, what, a week, 10 days that he's kind of come out with something profound. You know, and he's sounding a bit right-wing here, isn't he? But I think there's a lot more things to put right. And as you rightly say, the money that's spent on this diversity nonsense within the NHS is ridiculous and appalling.
And all the money they spend on leafleting, pamphleting, all their literature, which refuses to use the word woman or mother.
But we've also got 50% now, nearly 50% of people within the NHS are not clinical staff. They're clipboard carriers, managers and so on. But what I'm more concerned about, and like you do, I get a message...
You mean there's more than 50% are medical staff?
Only 50% are medical.
That surprises me. I'm surprised it's that much.
You thought it was only 10% were doctors.
Well, no. I mean, they've got 3,500 middle managers who earn more than £100,000.
But my concern here is, because of the culture here, is how many people are off as medical staff or other NHS staff because they've misgendered someone, used the wrong pronouns. That is endemic, apparently, within the public sector, the NHS, civil service and so on. What about that lack of productivity where people are off because they've offended someone?
What about West Street? He says he doesn't want any more of this daft nonsense. Stroke of a pen, right off the bat, straight up.
Do a Trump.
Right.
Do a Trump.
NHS staff no longer ask blokes whether they are pregnant. That would begin to edge away at the madness. That's the epicentre of NHS insanity, woke insanity. And if this guy Streeting won't do that, don't believe a word he says. We are trapped in weird, woeful wokery. Thank you very much to Russell Quirk. I'll be back in a little while with Alex Phillips. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of tonight's Political Asylum, and we have 60 sizzling minutes before the next news. But lots still to talk about. In just a little while, I'm going to be joined. Well, we're going to take your calls in about 20 minutes or so. So that'll be our opening volley of calls from you guys, from the audience and women, of course. 03444991000. The lunacy of allowing a criminal, a foreign Albanian criminal, to stay in this country, to allow him continue to reside here because his son doesn't like the taste of foreign chicken nuggets. This following on from all sorts of paedophiles who've been allowed to stay because of their right to a family life. Never mind about other people's families. You know, the threat that convicted paedophiles are to other people's children. Because he's got his own children, he's allowed to stay. That happened twice. We're giving away compensation to people who break into this country illegally because we don't put them in the right cell. This lunacy, 03444991000. And your thoughts on Andrew Gwynn, the former, until this morning, health minister, who sent WhatsApp messages hoping that an old lady of 72 would die before the next election because she had the temerity to complain about bin collections, mocking Diane Abbott for racial reasons, anti-Semitism about a guy with a Jewish name. Is he a member of Mossad? Sounds a bit militaristic to me. And just general awfulness about the people who support Labour. Your thoughts about Andrew Gwynn and Oliver Ryan, his MP mate up there, similar. Just looking down on constituents, looking down on the people of this country, especially the working class people who traditionally looked to Labour to support them. This lot of Labour MPs is just elitist. They hate the white working class. Why is that? 03444991000. And how about West Streeting? No more daft nonsense, he keeps saying, in the woke NHS. As I keep saying, just as a pointer, to prove he's serious, why doesn't he announce that from now on, no man will be asked whether or not he's pregnant in the NHS? Because at the moment, all blokes who go for an X-ray are asked, are you pregnant? As I say, I haven't been for an X-ray for quite a long time, but if I did and they asked me that, my answer would be, are you pregnant? Oh, I don't know, take a wild guess. I mean, it's mad. James Whale is having to go to hospital a lot, of course, while he battles cancer incredibly bravely and incredibly successfully. Good luck to James, but he gets this every time. Are you pregnant? It's become a joke between him and the staff, but they have to ask him. So, Wes, go on, strike a blow for sanity. Just issue that one order to show you're serious about stopping the mad wokery in the NHS. That's actually a danger to health. What do you think, folks? 03444991000. Let's go back to what I would suggest is a general malaise, and that is Labour's malaise. This government, I mean, it's Starmer staggers from one self-created, self-harming crisis to the next. Everything is unnecessary. He never had to axe the winter fuel allowance. It saved £1.4 billion, chump change on a national level. Why did he do it? He didn't have to do it. And he's still suffering. He'll probably never recover from that. You know, the waspy pensioners, he's completely gone back on his word and has thrown them under the bus, and so on and so forth. Turns out he spent £700,000 on flights in his first 3 months as Prime Minister. Never hear Keir. It's ridiculous. So why is this Labour government so catastrophically hopeless? Let's talk to someone who I think probably knows. She's very politically experienced. She's my old co-host, talk presenter, Alex Phillips. Hi, Alex.
right, Kev. Look, you haven't got a white shirt on. You've gone pinstripe.
I know. I'm trying to sort of... Well, there's a lot of vacancies in the cabinet at the moment, so I'm hoping that I might be appointed to some job or other when some of those idiots make more of these comments. Now, obviously, Alex, today is a good day to discuss this. Obviously, Andrew Gwynn and Oliver Ryan, the two awful Labour MPs who are so disparaging about the ordinary people who support that party. Obviously, they deserve their fate. And to be fair to Keir, he acted swiftly and correctly. But this is the latest catastrophe. Day in, day out, this party seems to stumble from one self-created balls up to the next. As I say, on a very, very minor level, it's emerged now that in the first 3 months of his faltering premiership, this Prime Minister spent more than £700,000 of taxpayers' money on aeroplane flights to foreign countries. Donald Trump has been President of America for a month, has stayed almost resolutely in Washington. You don't have to fly around the world. What's going wrong for this party? What's the essence of it?
They're thick. They're just really thick, aren't they? And this is the...
Thanks very much, Alex. It's been great talking. No, seriously, go on.
Interview, bye. I'm going to go. No, but they're really thick, aren't they? The thing is, that when it comes to... Let's go back to the WhatsApp messages and the WhatsApp groups. I don't want to live in a world where anybody loses their job because they've been having banter in a private WhatsApp group. Now, that is a rule that has to apply to everyone. So that has to apply to whether it's my surgeon or whether it's a Reform Party candidate or whether it's a Labour cabinet minister. You know, what jokes in a WhatsApp group are jokes in a WhatsApp group. However bawdy, however tasteless, that is what they are. And I don't want to live in a world where people are persecuted because of that. But, and here is the big but. I like big buts and I cannot lie. Basically, it's the Labour Party who've brought in this attack on free speech. It's their ideology. It's their version of fascism. So live by the sword, die by the sword. And this is what I mean by they're thick. They can't think about the next move. They came out of the blocks, didn't they, with their ultra-left-wing ideology. Oh, net zero everything, GB Energy, that fake news company that doesn't even have any employees and have already cost about £9 billion or something. And they can't actually execute anything because they're stupid people. You just look at Angela Rayner. You look at the quality of all of these people. Andrew Gwynn, again, thick. If you're someone who is in politics, whether you're a councillor, whether you're an MP, or even if you're the chairman of a football club, perhaps don't make bawdy jokes inside a WhatsApp group. Right?
Absolutely.
The nature of politics is you kind of think, you know, it's the old adage of don't write it down if you don't want someone to read it in the future. You have to just be a bit careful. And the reason I say this, I don't want people to be persecuted for what they say in WhatsApp groups, but if an idiot has done something, they're in a position of seniority. Well, you're stupid, aren't you? Could you imagine someone like Rupert Lowe being part of a WhatsApp group with banter? The man's a class act. He wouldn't have done that. You know, so again, it just exposes how incompetent and stupid these people are, which is why they think their radical ideology is A, popular, and B, can actually, you know, be actualised. It can't.
I'll tell you where I think Labour are going wrong. The Tories began to show signs of this back in the day when your friend David Cameron was the Prime Minister. And yeah, I know you don't like him much, and I'm with you on that. Do you remember when he talked about the Tory party members in the shires? The people who were the backbone of that party started calling them swivel-eyed lunatics, looking down on them, saying that they're right-wing nutters. So there's that. Once these political elites in Westminster start looking down on the people for whom they rely on for votes, then I think they're in bad trouble. Now, the Tories aren't too bad at that. I think they try and keep some respect for their supporters. They try their best, at least the more intelligent members of the party do. And Reform UK, I think, are very much in tune. They make a point of being very in tune with their supporters. They want their supporters to be the kind of guy people who could sit across the table with Nigel Farage and, you know, chew the fat, discuss the issues, man-to-man, equal basis. That's what Reform UK are trying to do, and quite successfully. Now, where this really falls out of kilter is with the Labour Party. The Labour Party, for many years, Blair was a shocker, all that lot were. For many years, they've been looking down on their own supporters, particularly the white working class. Do you remember, of course, Emily Thornberry, when she went to Thanet and took that picture of the St George's flags all over a house, no doubt a Labour supporter's house, and went, the view from Thanet. How awful. Ed Miliband, the then leader, was absolutely furious and sacked her, if you remember. A rare moment of sanity from Crazy Ed. Then you had the election. Remember Gordon Brown, when that perfectly nice old lady said, I'm a bit worried about the migrant crisis. He's overheard 3 minutes say, put it next to that bigoted woman. Bigoted. Well, she wasn't bigoted. She wasn't bigoted. And now we've got this. We've got Gwyn looking down on. That's the problem. Labour are infested with these people, these elitists who look down on their own supporters, and that is a recipe for disaster.
But that's because left wing is basically just bullying. Being left wing is just being a bully. The only reason people on the left, basically people who are sort of fundamentally ideologically left wing are people with a massive chip on their shoulder. Therefore, the only people that they like, everybody else is a threat. If you've been successful, you're a threat. If you're not disadvantaged in some way, you're a monster. So the only people they like are people that they think in their head they can beat down on, because, oh, look, I'm friends with someone who's a refugee. Oh, poor them. Oh, I'm friends with this man who's got like boobs and a beard. Oh, poor them, poor little mentally ill person. That's what they love. They love a victim because they think of themselves as victims. And anybody else who doesn't join that is somebody that they have to hate because they're bullies. And the whole way that left-wingery functions is almost a sort of translation of bullying, whether it's through taxation. You've been successful, I'm going to nick your lunch money. Whether it's through an attack on free speech. You seem to get away with having fun and not being miserable. I'm going to prevent you saying anything. You know, it's just a form of resentment and spite. I think it was Margaret Thatcher who said socialism was the politics of envy. And it's true. And the way that the left wing sort of give themselves a pat on the back is they pretend to shower themselves with this moral rectitude. I'm better than all of you because my child is non-binary. I'm better than all of you because I go and, you know, I've been down to visit help, you know, care for Calais and given some soup to a rapist. You know, what
exactly right.
These people, they actually don't have the courage of conviction of going, well, actually, this is my country, these are my people, this is my tribe, and I like them, and I want to work for them for the betterment of them.
And don't forget that Keir Starmer, he imbues what we're talking about. He really hates the working classes. He really hates traditional Labour supporters. And when he pointed the finger in the summer at the rioters in Southport and all the other towns, gone far-right thugs. OK, he wasn't really just talking about the rioters. He was talking about anyone who's worried about the migrant crisis. So anyone who thinks this migrant crisis, I don't think it's very good for this country. As far as Keir Starmer's concerned, you might not be a rioter, but you're still a far-right thug. He hates his supporters too.
Right, and do you know the reason he's done this is because successive governments haven't managed this situation. We are not just, you know, about to approach a crisis. The crisis is here. The crisis is already in Rotherham and Rochdale and Oldham. The crisis is in the grooming gangs. The crisis is in the over £1 billion worth of funding that's being paid to one company alone, in the Northwest alone, to put migrants in hotels and buy them PlayStations. The crisis is already upon us. It's very clear. Our economy is struggling. The fabric of society is breaking apart. Young people don't want to live here and think that we're all racist. Millionaires are upping and leaving, really harming the exchequer. Farmers are protesting in Westminster. The crisis is here. And the crisis of immigration happened a long time ago.
It did. Now, I'm
hard to reverse. So instead, the only thing they can resort to manage the crisis is name call at anybody who points out there is a crisis.
Yeah, absolutely right, Alex. Very wise words. And I'm glad you brought out the rape gang scandal, because you've made what seems to me, I haven't seen it yet, but it seems like a very important film. It's about the rape crisis, not only in this country, but in Western countries all over the world. Rape is absolutely rocketing. And you've made a documentary, I think, for the New Cultural Forum. Let's have a look at a clip and then you can explain it.
16,000 incidents of reported rapes in the United Kingdom. By 2022, this increased to over 69,000, less than a decade on, more than a 400% increase. This harrowing trend echoes throughout Western Europe, from Finland to Denmark, Sweden, Germany and France. But why?
What's the film called, Alex?
Yeah, we haven't. It's called. Oh God, was it? I can't remember what it's called. Britain's Rape Epidemic, I think it's called. Right. The thing is, right? Okay, so you remember, because you were sitting by my side when back on good old Crosstalk.
We've still got it. It's like a sort of knee-jerk. Oh, Crosstalk. Yeah. Anyway, go on. Sorry, that's serious stuff. Go on.
I mentioned that my own lived experience, to coin a term of the left, of being a woman in London, was that I was getting followed down the street more. I was getting people sort of, approach me and say, "Oh, you're beautiful. Why don't you smile?" People, I like you, please talk to me, following, harassing. And I said that these aren't people who are born and bred in Britain who know that you don't do that. These are people who are going like, "Oh, yeah, blonde-haired woman, I'm going to try my luck," and just persistently, to an uncomfortable and frightening level, pursue me. And I said, that's my experience. And when I speak to other women in London, that's their experience. And when I made this comment, it went viral, didn't it? It went viral because people went, yeah, that's true. That's happening. But no one at that point had dared mention it. Well, interestingly, now we are in a situation where other countries are talking about this a lot more. If you are on social media, you've probably seen videos of women in Germany and France and the Netherlands and Sweden all talking about this phenomenon. And what those countries have done as well is collate criminal data, which is something our country doesn't do. Again, why? Because we're already in the crisis. So the only way is to pretend there isn't one. That's what the authorities think is the best approach. Other countries actually keep data on crimes by nationality, let's say. So you can look at the data from Denmark, from Sweden, from Germany, from the Netherlands, and see actually that proportionally a vast amount of sexual assaults and rapes, and these are the things that have been reported where people have been convicted, are being perpetrated by men largely from the Middle East and North Africa. When you look at it on a ratio of per capita basis, and even then it's sort of like 56%, I think, in Denmark is foreign-born nationals. Now, these are the things that have been convicted crimes. So we're not actually talking about the street harassment. And also, when you look at the number of rapes that are being reported, it's hugely gone up. To make these points in the toxic environment we now live in, you've got to give people data. So they can't turn around and go, "You're making this up because you hate brown people. You're making this up because you're a xenophobe. You're making this up because you're an Islamophobe." You need to actually say to people, here are the statistics. And actually, just before going into edit, The Telegraph did a fantastic story where they had used prison population data from the year before, the only data available. And guess what? When we looked at that, it corroborated what we'd seen happening around Europe. So it's a really important documentary in a sense of saying this is a crisis. Women and girls are far less safe in Europe now as a direct consequence of mass immigration, and we have provided the evidence.
And does it basically align with this single statistic? Is this something that plays out around Europe? This emerged last week. Almost 2/3 of those convicted of rape in Sweden in jail are first or second generation immigrants. Is that what we're talking about?
Right, so if you look at talking about that Telegraph article where they actually based it upon people who are serving time in prisons, because that's some of the only data we do have where it breaks down crimes and nationality, and it's the prison population. So people who have been convicted and proven, and we all know the conviction rate of rape is very low and the reporting rate is low. But when you look at that, and just from 1 year, that's the only sample size we've got, it shows that foreign nationals are 3 times more likely to have committed rape and be in prison for it than a British.
And this is the taboo that we're not allowed to confront, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually the other thing this documentary does is, like I said, when you look at the statistics and break it down both in the UK and European countries as to when we talk about foreign nationals, what might be the common denominator, it's largely overrepresentative of people from North Africa and the Middle East, i.e. Muslim countries. And what I've done is speak to a lot of people from those backgrounds, and I've had to speak to apostates, because if I spoke to most Muslims and said, oh, by the way, you know, what's the Muslim attitude to women, you know, they're not going to say, oh, it's really bad, actually, it's terrible. And there'll be some people, sensible people like Rakib Ehsan, who's a, you know, great commentator who comes on Talk, who would be able to have a great conversation about this and say plenty of moderate Muslims are very respectful and don't think that way.
Of
but
course.
there is a dark underbelly of people, especially from more less developed countries, who do have those medieval attitudes. And those are a lot of the people who have migrated over here. It isn't all the nuclear scientists and the doctors, is it?
So where this is important stuff, Alex. How can people get to see this?
Right, so either you follow New Culture Forum on X or follow me on X, and the link's there, or you can go on YouTube and look up Britain's Rape Epidemic or the New Culture Forum, and you will find it there. And what I would say, and it's not for my own sort of celebrity, but what I would say is, if you think this is an important subject and actually the truth does need to go out, watch it and share it. Yeah. Because unless we are in a position where more people are waking up to this, there are a lot of people out there, especially women, who've got no idea. They might watch Talk, they might vote Liberal Democrat, and, you know, in their minds think that all people coming over on boats or whatever it may be, or lovely, kind people, maybe they are, maybe a lot of them are, but they won't actually know the truth. And unless these people, and women especially, wake up and go, whoever they vote for, and especially those people, right, who aren't our viewers. Yeah. So if you're a viewer of Talk and you've watched that, send it to your left-wing mates and say, look, did you know the truth of the situation? Here's the statistics. Because unless people wake up and see that stuff, they'll just consume other forms of media which say it's all hunky-dory and talking about this stuff is racist. And we have huge difficulties ahead of us unless we can really expose the reality.
We've got to confront the truth. That's the problem with so many contentious issues in societies, Western societies today, is we're terrified to confront the truth because the truth can sometimes be uncomfortable. And the truth seems to be here, potentially, that the reason for this explosion of rapes in Western countries is the continuing invasion of immigrants from different cultures. So you dare to say the impossible there, Alex, so well done. And just before you go, on a much more shallow basis, I gather you've met a couple of fans of ours down drinking cider, as you're wont to do in Gloucester. We've got a picture. Tell us. There they are. There you are. Crosstalk.
Crosstalk. They used to be huge fans of Kevin, Alex and Crosstalk. So this is Heartland Cider and Perry Press in a village called Turley outside of Gloucester. And you know me, I always have to go and find the proper stuff. So we turned up and I just thought, oh, look, can I have a go on your scrumpy, please? And Derek, who's there on the right, he said, I know you. Do I know you? You're on telly, aren't you? And I said, oh, really? And that's David, his brother, on the left there. Anyway, massive fans of Kevin, Alex, and love Talk, watch us all the time. And can I just say, their cider is amazing. It's everything I'm looking for. It's the proper real deal. So if you're passing through Gloucestershire, or even if you're not, go there. Heartlands, go see Derek, go see David. You can see their cider press. They let you taste everything. You can fill up containers. Proper farmhouse stuff. We're talking sort of it's like 11 quid for 5 litres or something. So basically £1 a pint.
Wow, that's a good deal. And I bet you get your money's worth with that stuff. Listen, Alex, fantastic to talk to you, and we'll get you on again very, very soon. How are you feeling, by the way? Just before you go, how are you feeling?
Bit peaky. It's the flu that I just can't get rid of. I've got all this sort of tinnitus and dizziness, but that's the cider. The cider's actually
drink yourself fit like you usually do. Alex, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Alex Phillips there, my fellow Talk presenter. She's been ill now for some weeks. She had a terrible long flu kind of thing going on, so it looks like she's beginning to recover with the help of gallons of cider. It's always the medicine that works for Ms. Phillips. Right, next up, your call. Stay where you are.
Why on earth does Labour not listen to business on this?
Well, you'll get growth, for example, by increasing the national minimum wage, which is coming down the line.
How does that deliver growth?
Well, because people spend the extra money in shops and businesses and go on holidays.
Well,
and they
but wait a minute. Not if employers hire fewer people.
Well, I think as the economy does grow, businesses will see that they can take on more people. I think there's a sort of shock we're going through right now, and it is going to get worse, but it will get better by the end of the political cycle.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to take a quick call now, and then we're going to go to break, and then straight over to the Sun's brilliant TV critic, Ali Ross, who will be with us all the way till 9 o'clock. We're going to discuss a number of issues, particularly Donald Trump's activities over the last couple of days. Hilarious that he went to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and he walked into the stadium, crowd, yeah! Old Taylor Swift, she's sitting in a box. When they flashed her up on the screen, boo! And she goes, oh, what's going on? Well, what it is, Taylor, is he understands Americans and you don't. With your liberal left-wing Hollywood claptrap, they don't want to know about that anymore. Just sing your little ditties. Leave the politics to the politicians, eh? Might be an idea. So that in just a minute. But first, let's take a quick call. Let's go to Greg in London. So it happened to you, Greg, did it? You got asked if you were pregnant.
Kevin, what a great show as always. Can I just say, what an absolute star Alex Phillips is.
Always.
You're lucky to know her. You really are.
Well, she's lucky to know me, to be fair.
Well, maybe.
Maybe not. Right, you went to the doctors and they asked you if you were pregnant, yeah?
Well, no, I went for my regular consultants meeting I'm 77 years old, and I went to my regular consultants meeting about getting on for a year ago, and they go through the usual questions and all the rest of it. And the nurse said to me, with a very serious face, she said, "Are you pregnant?" And I looked at her, and I put on my very serious face, and I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know." I said, "But I think I'm in the best place to find out." Can you help me? And she looked at me, and with a sort of resigned expression, she ticked the box and said no. So in other words, she thought I was taking the pee, and of course I was. And I looked at her and I said, "Excuse me, you've ticked the box no, but you don't know, because I've told you I don't know." And I tell you what, she did not know what to do.
See, what happens to most people...
I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I'll bet you did, but what happens with most people, my friend and colleague James Whale, is quite ill.
Yes, of course.
And he keeps going to hospital, and it's become a big joke. But so a lot of NHS staff, they have to go to the guys... It tends to get, "I'm really sorry to have to ask you this, but we do have to. It's in the rules.
Yes.
I have to ask you, are you pregnant?" To which it's never happened to me, but I keep wanting to be there so I could say, "Tell you what, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, why don't you take a wild guess?" I mean, do you know what I mean? I think that this question, this single question that is asked to all men before they have an X-ray, be they like your age, 75, I'm not saying you, but you could be a 75-year-old...
77?
All right, you could be 77, I'm not saying that you're like this, Greg, but you could be 77 with a beer gut and a beard, and the NHS has to ask you, are you pregnant?
I don't have a beard, but the other stuff I do have.
And there you go, there you go. Well, perhaps that's why they asked you. You've been too many light and bitters. But seriously, it's the epicentre of NHS madness, and it's got to stop.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. The way to treat these people is to laugh and let them know you're treating them with contempt.
But in fairness to them, Greg, you know, the nurse you saw, it's not her fault that they're made to ask these stupid questions, but they are, and they have to do it. So, you know, it's the system that needs to be challenged. And as I said earlier, West Streeting says he wants to get rid of all the woke daft nonsense. Well, here's a good place to start. Stop asking blokes if they're pregnant, right? That would be a good start, wouldn't it?
I think so.
Yes, it would, Greg, it would. And excellent to talk to you. Keep in touch, call me again. Greg in London. Let's go to break, and when we come back, Ali Ross.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We've got a number of things to talk about, so let's go straight over to the Sun's brilliant TV critic, Ali Ross. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Kev. How you doing? You're looking foxy tonight.
Thank you thank you very much. I also, I hope you like my new woke persona. I'm trying to get with the programme, you know, and join the crowd and be very, very woke. So I was furious to see that Super Bowl crowd, that ungrateful Super Bowl crowd in New Orleans yesterday, cheering the unwoke president, Donald Trump, cheering him, cheering it to the rooftops. And then when they switched the camera to wonderful, woke, left-wing, liberal Hollywood Taylor Swift, the entire crowd broke out into boos. She went, oh, what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on is you, Taylor, don't understand the American people, and that guy Donald Trump does, right? The kind of wokery that she stands for is being brilliantly stamped out by that guy, right?
Yeah, the best thing about him is, and the main reason to vote for him, I think, is he annoys exactly the right people. They cannot control their fury. And very occasionally on television, because it's so controlled and the people who appear on it are very carefully selected, real life does intrude. And it's mainly at football matches when you hear them chanting the most hilariously inappropriate things at 3 p.m. on a Sunday. But and there you have another classic example of it, with people being taken aback that a country that voted in record numbers for this guy are cheering him. But it's still a shock to them. He's still a threat to democracy, despite winning an election.
Like all those showbiz people like Taylor Swift and Robert De Niro. But we told you to vote for the Democrats. It's just idiots.
It's fantastic, isn't it? They don't do as actors tell them,
yeah.
And it's a terrible shock to the dressing up box community that the populace just doesn't dance to their tune. And it's rather wonderful.
It's great. It's great to watch, and of course Donald Trump tweeting that Taylor Swift had a terrible night. They were cheering me, and booing her. MAGA is very unforgiving.
People are also struggling to come to terms with a politician who's done exactly what he said he'd do. It's blown people's minds.
I know.
All the stuff he said in the election, well, he's acted upon it.
Yeah, exactly right. And he's completely destabilised our government over here, and indeed sort of lefty governments around the world, because he's doing actually what people want. We don't want any more of this crazy wokery. Hey, I've just put on a dress, and even though I've got a beard, I'm a woman because I identify as a woman. It's like ordinary people going, no, you're not. And yet governments say to us, oh, no, it is a woman. It is a woman. No, it's not.
This is the backlash to it. And it started in America, and what starts in America eventually finds its way over here. And it's kind of frustrating that it's taking its time to get over here, but the longer it takes, the greater the backlash. And when it comes, it's going to be beautiful to behold, Kev.
Yeah, it's already beautiful to behold in America, and when it comes here, it's just going to be fantastic. Apropos of nothing, we're going to play a bit of footage of Donald Trump on Air Force One making his way to the Super Bowl, commenting on the new names he has for various seas and regions. So take it away, Donald.
Air Force One is currently in international waters for the first time in history, flying over the recently renamed Gulf of America. Please enjoy the flight, and we are now about to head westbound to Super Bowl 59.
Wow, yeah. He did that well. Make America great again, right? That's what we care about. Okay, here we go.
Do you know what, Ali? It's just another. There goes another executive order. This is a guy. He's the only guy in the world who can break off halfway through his signature and then resume it later. He's written a blizzard. He's signed a blizzard of executive orders, but he could have signed a lot more if his signature didn't take 3.5 hours to complete. It's the longest signature I've ever seen. It's quite good.
It should be carved in marble, that thing. It's a thing of beauty, isn't it?
It isn't a good-looking signature, but boy, it takes...
Say what you like about the guy.
He's got a hell of
nice handwriting.
He's got a hell of a signature. What he's doing is fantastic. Let's move on to more wokery, really, before we get to the break, because I want to bring you back after this. Your column this week, folks, every Friday in the Sun, Ali Ross, don't miss it. Best column of the week in any paper. It really is great. On Friday, you wrote about a programme that I've had the misfortune to watch a bit of. It's Channel 4. And it's called Go Back to Where You Came From. And the premise is they get some right-wing people, some rather extreme...
It does cheap and nasty programmes like this, which are basically there to humiliate poor working-class people. They've taken the lowest common denominator, although a couple of them come... Actually, there's a guy called Dave, comes across really well in it. but they've been held up as the antithesis of what Channel 4 stands for. So they must go through this process of re-education, as they see it, and say, I've got it so wrong. My heart bleeds for these poor illegals coming to Britain. I now know what they suffer. It's a fait accompli, and it should be avoided at all costs by your viewers, Kevin.
In essence, I bet you everyone who's in this programme, I know one of them, Chloe Dodds, who comes onto the show sometimes. In essence, I think that Channel 4 would have established that their token right-wingers who are against the migrants coming here are the kind of people who at the end will say, I was wrong. We shouldn't send them back to Mogadishu. So if it was someone like me, who I said, I still think we should send them back there. I don't really care what their country's like. If they broke our law,
Douglas Murray onto this show, are they?
Yeah. You see, I don't really give a toss about their fate. I suppose I wouldn't get a job on that, and nor would Douglas Murray.
No. The irony is they've got two people there who are pro-immigration, and one of them's this monster called Bushra Sheikh, who
she's an anti-Semite, isn't she?
She's a nasty anti-Semite. It's the second one to come out of The Apprentice. And you think, well, one's unfortunate, two, it's a pattern starting to emerge here. And she's posted some hideous things on Twitter. The only bona fide bigot is her, and she's meant to be pushing the case for pro-immigration.
They're always the worst, aren't they?
Channel 4 either didn't do their homework on this girl, which is horrifically unprofessional, or they did and they've put her on deliberately because they actually haven't got a problem with the stuff she's been posting on social media about Israel, which is utterly toxic.
Yeah, it's extremely problematical what she's posted about Israel and about Jewish people. I think it is fair to say...
She described people from Britain who emigrate to Israel as lying scumbags, and Israel is a European problem that needs to be sent back to Europe. Well, in actual fact, the Jewish diaspora came from all over the world to perform aliyah. I mean, they had to move out of many Muslim countries because they were at imminent risk of being killed by people like Bushra Sheikh.
Anyway, we don't recommend Go Back to Where You Came From.
Please don't watch it.
Classic piece of left-wing, liberal, nonsensical, woke crap from the idiots who work in British television. And most of the idiots who work in British television work at Channel 4, which is really unfair to the enormous amount of idiots who work at the BBC and ITV as well.
I was going to say, they're fairly equally spread between
I'm not being fair there, am I? They're all idiots.
Not at all, Kevin.
Listen, when we come back, we are going to discuss... I think we'll have another look at Donald Trump and his attitude to Meghan and Harry. Great stuff there, Donald, yet again. Also, I want to talk about cancel culture. It looks like old Gino D'Acampo is the new Greg Wallace, guilty of being a white middle-aged bloke on telly. We can't have that. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned, folks.
as opposition leader, he promised this politics of duty, of service. Serving the British people, all British people. And for me, he's fallen well short of that. I think that when you have things like Allygate, for example, all these scandals over donors and the money that the party has received and the way that money has been used by the party leader and also the deputy leader, Angela Rayner, I'm not seeing much of a politics of integrity here, unfortunately.
No, I don't think they have any integrity, and the fact that they keep telling us they have makes it even more galling.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're still talking to the Sun's excellent TV critic, Ali Ross. Ali, before we get to Gino D'Acampo, the new Greg Wallace, a quick return to the world of Donald Trump, the wonderful world of Donald Trump. Well, he's let Prince Harry off the hook. He says he won't deport him, even though it looks like he lied, or he may have lied on his visa application. In the end, some old ginger prince, doesn't really matter if he lives there or not, does he? So Donald said, well, I'm going to let him off. He's got enough problems as it is with that wife of his, talking about Meghan, and says, she's terrible.
I think he's having too much fun with Prince Harry to let him go. He's a real asset to him. Probably every time Meghan or Harry opens their gob, it's worth another 100,000 votes to Donald Trump. So he's not going to get rid of one of his best assets.
No, exactly. And I always knew he wouldn't kick him out. I mean, you know, it would create an unnecessary diplomatic tension. It's not worth it. You know, it doesn't really matter that much. But of course, Harry couldn't quite let that one lie and made his speech at the Invictus Games going on about the weak moral character, implicitly attacking people like Trump for not leading the world properly. Who the hell does Prince Harry think he is, going on about weak moral characters and their leadership qualities? What does he know about it? Does he think he's Jesus Christ or something? I mean, you know, this is a guy who's written more books than he's read, and he hasn't even read a single book yet because his book was written for him by a ghostwriter. So who the hell does he think he is?
He's probably someone that rails against privilege, and they're always the most privileged people you could possibly hope to not to stumble across. He's incredibly thin-skinned as well, and insecure, clearly. He recognises his faults, and it doesn't take too much to press his buttons, which is what Donald Trump's discovered, and he's just going to do it endlessly now. Yeah.
So he praised opening the Invictus Games. He praised the veterans' courage, values, and humanity. Well, obviously, we'll go with that. Whilst noting there was, and I quote, no shortage of crises, no absence of uncertainty, no lack of weak moral character in the world. What a pompous twat.
And he gave a little look after he'd said it. Oh, I nailed it there. Yeah. H-bomb, drop the mic. Yeah.
Get out of that, Trump. Oh, God.
I think you'll find.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Harry, you're the crap under Donald Trump's shoes. You really are. Like he could care less. But an incredible moment. Talk about pompous. Talk about making speeches above his pay grade. Stick to kissing babies and shaking hands on pretend royal tours. Let's move on to cancel culture. Well, we recently witnessed poor old Greg Wallace getting his marching orders off the BBC show MasterChef, of course, for apparently making inappropriate sexual comments, sexual behaviour, etc. Well, Gino D'Acampo over on ITV is getting the same treatment. Now, ITV's, we've got all these reports, he behaved so badly, and, you know, but they put him up as some kind of sex god, didn't they? I mean, they made him cook dishes wearing nothing but an apron. We've got a little bit of footage to sort of reveal the kind of character that Gino was made to depict on telly.
Once in, I love it.
Nice, you see? Hey, welcome back.
You know what I mean?
If my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike. You know, what, you know... You know, what the hell is, you know, it doesn't make any sense what you said. It's a different recipe. Since you've been up the fluff, or whatever it's called, it's been... Well, how do you say again?
To the hole.
Sausage in the hole.
Does Toad offend you?
No, but sausage in the hole sounds fantastic.
So it's okay when it's really funny and it's on telly like that, but if he makes the similar comments off screen, that gets him cancelled because he's finished just like Greg Wallace is finished, right?
Yeah, you don't come back from these things. That's the thing. I'm not particularly scandalised by anything I've seen there, I must admit. It all seems quite funny. It can get a bit tiresome. And if he was being a jerk behind the scenes, then someone needed to take him to one side and just say, look, you can't do this, especially not in this day and age, and nip the problem in the bud. But it seems to have been encouraged until the point it wasn't encouraged, at which point this deluge of stuff appears and suddenly career over.
Yeah, so we were just seeing him there, you know, dressed just in his apron. This was the sort of the Italian stallion kind of character that ITV got him to promote, and now they're cancelling him because of it.
But it depends. I heard stuff about Gino D'Acampo years ago, and I've always... the thing is, he's a television natural, and you get very few of them who are just born with this ability to perform in front of a camera in a populist fashion. But you did hear things about him which weren't particularly savoury.
Same for Greg Wallace. But what we're talking about is differing times. You know, what used to be acceptable was even encouraged in the television world. They're now turning around and saying, oh, no, we never encouraged it, you're fired. It's just not true. They did encourage it.
I will keep an open mind on it until I hear something that sort of justifies the amount of coverage it's getting, put it that way. You have to be a bit careful.
Well, you do, and it's the same with Greg Wallace. But I mean, whatever happened, Ali, in the annals of things that mysteriously disappeared, whatever happened to the BBC's investigation into whether or not Greg Wallace was guilty of all these charges that were made against him? Because it seemed to disappear. He was fired, and the investigation doesn't seem to exist anymore.
Nowhere has as much long grass as the BBC, and the things you'll find that have been kicked into that over the years are quite unsavoury.
Yeah, like, for example, Hugh Edwards' reputation, that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. The BBC's first reaction to anything is, let's hope it goes away.
Yeah, and usually it won't. What are you thinking of leading on this week, Ali?
Well, it's 40 years of EastEnders, Kevin.
Oh, God, yeah.
I know it feels a lot longer than that. And in all that time, I think I've seen one decent episode.
And who invented the term Dirty Den?
Was it by Kevin O'Sullivan at the Sun newspaper?
It was! Yes! Well done, Ali. Great to talk to you. Talk again soon. Ali Ross there. We'll be back in just a second. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Final hour of tonight's Political Asylum. 60 sizzling minutes still to go. Then I'll hand over the helm of the Good Ship Talk to the great Petri Hoskin. She'll take you through from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. with her nightlife show. She'll be in towards the end of this hour to let you know what she's got lined up for your entertainment, what she'll want you to call her on. In the meantime, I want you to call me on 0344 499 1000 on all the issues we've been talking about, because we're going back to the phones in 25 minutes or so, and the rest of the show is yours. The floor is yours. Let's talk about why on earth an Albanian criminal who'd been to jail for 2 years was allowed to stay, avoided deportation because his son didn't like the taste of foreign chicken nuggets. Why would you think that would be a reason for him to stay? 0344 499 1000. And Andrew Gwynn, until recently health minister of the Labour Party, the Labour government, now sacked for showing utter contempt for his constituents, hoping that a 72-year-old lady who was worried about her bins died before the next election. Anti-Semitic jokes about a guy with a Jewish name, racist jokes about Diane Abbott, sexist jokes about Angela Rayner, and so on and so forth. He's gone. Also his little mate, 29-year-old Oliver Ryan, the MP for Burnley, he's gone as well for the same reasons. He's in the same WhatsApp group posting nasty messages about the people who vote for them. What is wrong with Labour MPs? Why are they like this? Why do they look down on the population? Why are they so contemptuous of their constituents? Why don't they like the traditional white working class support base of the Labour Party? Why is that? 0344 499 1000. And why, if Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, is serious about stopping the woeful wokery, the insane wokery in the NHS, you know, can't say mother, can't say woman, person who menstruates, person who's pregnant. No, it's a woman, a mother who's pregnant. Try that one. Anyway, if Wes Streeting, as he wrote in The Sun on Saturday, is serious about ending what he called the daft nonsense of all this, let's start with the Health Secretary banning NHS staff from asking men, blokes, guys, if they're pregnant. Hey? That'd be a good place to start. You know, ground zero madness, if you like, or ground zero sanity. This is where sanity begins, from ground zero here. No more asking blokes if they're pregnant. What about that? 0344 499 1000. Well, before we get to you, before we get to your calls, I want to take a deep dive into modern policing. We do a lot of this, but it's always worth discussing. And there's a trigger for it. PC Timothy Bradshaw looks to me like a decent, long-serving copper, one of those coppers, you know, who didn't court the promotional ladder, and at 55 was still a decent PC. I suppose they don't walk the beat now, but shall we say patrolling the beat. Anyway, he saw some of these, a couple of these thugs on e-bikes terrorising pedestrians, trying to nick things, charging down the road. So PC Bradshaw, Timothy Bradshaw, followed them in his police car and gave him a little nudge, and they fell off their bikes. Good. He ends up in court. Accused of causing serious injury to these yobbos. One was a guy called Mason McGarry, who was then 17, who had more than 40 convictions to his name. And the other was a pillion rider called Dominic Mitzi, now 22. He said, I don't give a monkey's about the law. So, Timothy Bradshaw nudged them, they came off their bikes. He ends up in court accused of causing serious injury. Well, fortunately, There's not much common sense left in the police force, or indeed this country. But jurors, 12 men good and true, 12 men and women good, honest and true, they've got common sense. They took about 2 seconds to say, this is a copper doing his job and doing his job properly, and he is acquitted. He is not guilty. The question is, why on earth did the police let PC Bradshaw end up in court in the first place? Let's ask ex-Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville. Answer the question, Mike, why?
Well, the police just try to appease everybody, and they forget, in particular, that they're supposed to serve the goodies in the world. And I put on my Facebook page, goodies 1, trash 0, because we see a decent, hard-working officer here who has been dragged through the mire, 2 years of worry, no doubt, decent family man. And then you say these two scoundrels with 50 or 60 convictions between them. So the police are trying to some of these senior officers are happy to almost throw these young officers or junior officers to the wolves. And you've got to ask yourself, Kevin, haven't you? In the police, why would anybody drive a car at high speed, even if they were doing the right thing? Why would anybody shoot anybody with a gun even if they're doing the right thing? Because all that happens is these officers are just left with misery for years, worried that they might get sent to prison. Split-second decisions are poured over by senior officers and lawyers who never made those split-second decisions. And then, you know, after 6 months, a year, they decide that this person will go to trial. And as you said, the one thing that stands out to me here is the jury system. I was on a jury, and I was struck by the sort of common sense, decency, the working folk on there who just could put some sense to something, and long may that tradition continue in this country.
Absolutely, but we had to get to a jury before common sense prevailed. I would have thought that sensible police forces, you can see the footage of what PC Bradshaw did. I'll tell you what he was trying to do, trying to keep the streets safe. These two are a couple of menaces. Weaving around, charging up the pavement, trying to nick stuff. A couple of little thugs. And he was trying to rid the streets of these two just by nudging them. And they came off their bike. And I would have said that a police force, police are the people who are responsible for getting together charges against defendants. Now, the police force could have said, Bognor Regis is the force in question, they should have said, this is a copper, a good, decent copper of long experience, 55 years old. He's not a rookie who's just turned up, and is trying to be in Starsky and Hutch or anything like that. He's a sensible copper, obviously. A sensible police force would have said, we do not charge this guy. That is where this case should have stopped. Why do they not do that, Mike?
Because they want to be seen to be absolutely perfect, and you're never going to get that. Officers will make mistakes. If there are bad officers, and I've seen bad officers, they need to be rooted out. But this isn't a bad officer, and you get ridiculousness. On the Metropolitan Police posted their discipline hearings this week, and one of the hearings is the accusation against the police constable is that he farted near a WPC's head. Now, surely that is something that surely this is something a sergeant should be saying. Look, this is not the thing you're doing. It's ungentlemanly. It's disgusting. This is something a sergeant would deal with. It's not something for a discipline hearing, which has taken months and months to investigate. So instead of investigating burglaries, robberies, rapes, they're investigating people farting in the locker room or wherever it happened. And also, it's just a waste of police time.
Yeah. It's a lack of common sense. That PC, who's messing around breaking wind next to a WPC, as you say, an experienced sergeant should take him aside and say, look, stop being such a kid. This is ridiculous. Don't do it. And he wouldn't do it. Instead, the wheels of justice, internal justice, are set in very long motion. It costs a lot of money. You have a panel of tribunal experts, a big court. They're represented by lawyers and so on and so forth. Now, sometimes these kind of hearings, in terms of police behaviour, are obviously necessary. But they're more and more, as you're saying, Mike, these tribunals are being used to enforce minor infractions, sort of silly, naughty behaviour in the office that should be discouraged. Again, it's asinine. There's a lack of common sense, isn't there?
Well, yeah, absolutely, because if you had a police force that was solving, 95% of all burglaries and catching all rapists and making sure every thief went to jail, you could understand that they could, pursue farting officers or whatever the latest craze is. But they're not solving those things, are they? They're solving 1% of thefts, 5% of burglaries. And so every officer who's spent investigating ridiculous nonsense, it's time wasted. And another point as well is that the police force has been created is awful. An inspector who's recently retired, he made the point that officers who are double crewed in a car together will not have conversations. They'll just talk about what's needed to be talked about, because everybody is frightened that they're going to be reported for saying something that's politically incorrect or wrong. So what you've got is a dreadful work environment where officers are facing danger. Many officers face danger. They face vicious criminals, and what they have is they can't even speak to their colleagues about it, because if they say the wrong thing, somebody's on top of them.
Yeah, and let's go back to that case that you've been kind enough to join us on a couple of times now, down in the West Country, Plymouth Police. You know the story well. This is the story about a guy called Oliver Smith. He's 33 years old, but he's severely autistic and has the mental age of a 10-year-old. His parents, his furious and distraught parents, have had to agree to him going on a 16-week kind of correctional course because he posted on social media, on Instagram, a sort of death threat to Keir Starmer. Now, obviously, that's a bad thing to do, and if you were a completely compos mentis adult, you'd probably end up getting punished for that. You can't make death threats to people. This guy's got a mental age of 10. His parents have said to the police, come on, but the police have said either he goes on this 16-week correctional course, and this is to teach him about social media behaviour and behaviour around politics. He's got a mental age of 10. If he doesn't agree to go on that, in other words, if his parents don't agree, he'll be in court, hauled up for making death threats against the Prime Minister. Again, this is not the police force I want. Where is the common sense in this? Where's the bloody decency in it, Mike?
It just doesn't exist, does it? I mean, we've spoken about this case, and I'm convinced that they're just trying to chase detection figures. But every time, for 16 weeks, what's a police officer who's going to be sat speaking to a mentally impaired man who's got the mind of a 10-year-old, who's got very loving parents who can deal with him? The people of Plymouth would rather have that officer out on patrol, no doubt. All the paperwork that it's generating is absolutely ridiculous. And the police need to get back to basics. They need to be patrolling the streets. They need to be catching thieves. They need to be putting bad people in jail. And they need to be looking after good people so people feel safe in their homes and they feel safe on the streets. But all this is being lost. They're chasing the wrong things, and as a result, and also the other thing as well is that the lack of confidence and trust in the police. There's an article in the Times today, a third of young people have actually no trust in the police. It's no good, and often the trust in the police is lowered because the ordinary person calls them out. There's a guy in London. He lived in a houseboat. The burglar actually left a bail condition form with his name and address on it, and the police haven't arrested the guy. That's where trust and confidence in the police fails.
There was a case in Wales, wasn't it? I think North Wales recently, where a poor guy had his mobile phone stolen, and oddly and unusually, it was retrieved. The police got the phone back. And then wouldn't give the owner of the phone his phone back because they said, well, the thief who stole it has now used it, and therefore he has a right to privacy. The use of that phone now has his data on it, and therefore lawfully the owner of the phone can't have it back because that would infringe the thief's privacy. Again,
Yes,
where is the common sense in that? And that guy should have his phone back like now, shouldn't he?
Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, they tried to defend it and say, well, it wasn't data protection, or we kept it as evidence. But that's just lunacy as well, because, you know, if you go shoplifting and you find on the thief, you know, the joint of meat and the tin of salmon, you don't seize them and keep them as evidence. You give them back to the shopkeeper because you can take a photograph and write it down in a statement.
Yeah.
So the idea you'll deprive somebody of their phone, something that they probably use for work especially, is utter madness. And they try, 1 minute it's data protection, they can't hand it over, the next minute it's evidence. They're just making things up.
I think you're exactly right, mate. I think that North Wales Police did make this up. They said, oh, we have to keep it for evidence. So I'd like to ask North Wales Police, is that the message that you're sending out to the people of this country? That if you get your telephone stolen and on the off chance the police actually retrieve it, that they will never give it back to you? Because
it's crazy,
data...
It's a good job.
Yeah.
You know, Kevin, for once, the police have caught somebody. So well done, North Wales Police. You've caught the bad person. That's a good thing, North Wales. Yeah. And then they mess it up with some silly actions like this. And as I say, the police need to be trusted. Else, the public are the police, and the police are the public. And it's not ending up like that.
To cut to the chase about what is wrong with the police these days, you've made this point quite often. Quite rightly too. In your day, you would arrest 4, 5, 6 people a day, and now you have coppers, young coppers, PCs, just got the job. They don't arrest somebody for an entire year. Also, you know, people complain, oh, why aren't the coppers on the streets? You know, they're patrolling the tweets, but they're not patrolling the streets. Well, it turns out that 25% of all coppers, 1 in 4, never leave the nick. They never leave the police station because they're busy doing bureaucratic work. So 25% of our coppers never, ever set foot outside of the police station. That's insanity.
It is an insanity, and you can blame Theresa May for this, really, because not only did she get rid of 20,000 officers, she got rid of tens of thousands of civilian staff, you know, backroom staff who would do the administrative duties. And whilst the Conservatives brought in, you know, said, oh, re-recruited 20,000 officers. So they re-recruit people who've got very little experience. What's been lost is a lot of street craft, the people who know how to spot a thief and stuff like that. But what they haven't replaced, of course, is the backroom or the admin staff who would carry out things like, you know, making CCTV evidence or making sure that the stop and search forms were filed and that sort of thing. So all that, so the experience has been lost and all the backroom support has been lost, because there are so many good officers out there who would fight with people with knives, who would run at people who've got a gun and do incredibly brave things. But they haven't got the backup, and I'm afraid they haven't got the leadership either. The leadership are obsessed with diversity and whatever else. They're not obsessed with catching criminals and putting villains in jail, and that's what needs to change.
Why don't you think, this is the last question really, Mike, why don't you think these chief constables around the country, and nearly all of them seem to be woke and left-wing and parroting sort of Labour Guardian reading claptrap, why is it that they can't understand that in the end they're never going to get very good publicity for community relations and dancing the Macarena with the public, or, you know, gyrating with people at Notting Hill Carnival, or skateboarding on bridges with Extinction Rebellion? Why don't they understand they're never going to get good publicity for that, even though they seem to think they will, and that the only way they'll ever get good publicity is if they start solving crimes? Why can they not see that their road to Damascus, their road to popularity and being perceived of as doing a good job, is solving bloody crimes? Why can't they see that?
Well, because they belong to the same liberal elite as the politicians. So when Keir Starmer refers to people like me and you as far right because we challenge immigration, or we want prison to be harsh, or we want villains locked up, they see the world through that view. So in their world view, that the Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil, they probably went to the same university as these, you know, as the people who went, you know, as Annabelle and Crispin, they went to the same universities as these people. there's hardly any senior officers who are ex-armed forces anymore. There used to be about 50% of the senior officers. And so what you have is this liberal elite who believe in everything that you see on the net zero, mass immigration, liberal views on the punishment of criminals. They belong to that same club. So what you're saying is, you know, catching villains, put them inside. It doesn't appear in their religious beliefs, because this is a cult, and it doesn't appear there. And this is why we have the police force we have at the moment.
It's very intractable. I mean, I would ask you what we should do. But I think what we need to do with our police, we need a sort of Donald Trump or stroke Elon Musk kind of operation to come in and just say, this is no good. We rip up the copybook and we start again. There's been suggestions of that with the Met Police here in London, that it is so rotten, so useless, so woke and hopeless that we might as well just get rid of it, give it a new name and start again. But maybe nationally we need to have a serious look, don't we?
We do definitely. We don't need 43 police forces in England and Wales, for example. We need to cut down that number, all the bureaucracy and silly driving different vehicles and wearing different uniforms. All that needs to be cut away. But the key thing that needs to change, as you say, we need somebody like the President of the United States who can make an executive order saying, we're not having any more of this. Stop it now. There is anybody who's in a diversity, equity, or whatever they call it this week, equality and inclusion role, you're now posted to the robbery squad at Brixton. Back to the front line.
Yeah.
It needs somebody to be ruthless to change this, because it's not going to be changed by tinkering. It needs the highest level changes, but I'm afraid under the current government you're not going to get that.
No, exactly right. Just by way of signing off, I should have mentioned this before, but you put in a freedom of information request to West Yorkshire Police about how much they were spending on diversity every year, and it added up to more than £1 million, with 19 officers, I think, on great big fat salaries, 2 of them on about 95 grand each, you know, in charge of diversity, equality and inclusion. And they're also spending £316,000 a year sending coppers on diversity courses. This is just not sensible use of public money, and it's got to stop. Mike, fantastic to talk to you as always. We will talk again very soon. The brilliant Mike Neville there, ex-Scotland Yard detective, on what needs to be done with this police force of ours around the country. As he said, 43 police forces in England and Wales. We don't need that many. Maybe we should have one. Run by someone who's not some sort of left-wing Guardian reading woke idiot. Run by a guy or a woman who wants to solve crimes, catch burglars, catch car thieves, catch bike thieves, catch violent street people, you know, all of that. You know, I don't know, old-fashioned. Catch the bad guys. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, your phone calls and your messages for the rest of the show. Stay tuned.
The case centred on the son's additional needs, although there was no evidence from a trained psychologist, nothing at all. There was evidence from a neighbour and a trainee psychologist. No diagnosis of special educational needs, but basically he had problems with socks. He had problems with types of food he would eat, including chicken nuggets, and that was like the only sole example given. And this guy was allowed to stay in the country. I mean, I'd like to think this is unbelievable, but I have a funny feeling this is what happens every day.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's already a couple of messages here. This is the chicken nugget Asylum case. This is from Shaz. Good evening, Kev. Did the judge presiding over the chicken nugget basket case ever stop to think that the company making the nuggets could discontinue them? So what would they then do? Find an alternative? So what a load of codswallop for allowing him to stay. That would be about it, Shaz, that final point you made. Absolute claptrap. But it doesn't surprise me, you know. You know, I've covered two stories recently, two paedophiles who, having done their time for sex crimes against children, raping children, were allowed to stay because they got their own children, they got a right to a family life. Well, by allowing them to stay, you endanger other people's children, and by the way, as a paedophile, they're a danger to their own children. What are they doing letting these people stay? You commit any crime, I think, you come out of jail, we deport you, because if you go to jail for a crime, it means it's a serious crime. If it's a sex crime, rape, particularly rape of a child, it's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? Out, go, leave. And yet we let them stay. So the chicken nugget factor, given what we've heard before, isn't that surprising. It should be, but it isn't. Lewis sends me a WhatsApp note. He says, I know people who smoke weed. Really? I know people who smoke weed and they say they get their stuff from Albanians. Well, perish the thought. So I'm not at all surprised he was found with all that money he couldn't account for. Yeah, I mean, you know, Albanians do seem to get involved in our drug trade. We don't know about this chicken nugget guy. We don't know where he got the money from, but it was deemed to be the proceeds of crime, so he's up to no good. He's got 250 grand's worth of cash, hard cash, and he went to jail for that because he couldn't account for it. And Bren says, has this 10-year-old of an Albanian convict been to Albania to taste the chicken nuggets there? That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, when he says he doesn't like foreign chicken nuggets, has he been around the world? Has he been checking out various countries for their chicken nugget quality? You know, it's all a bit dodgy. But then again, our migrant court system, it's basically, can I stay? You know, because, you know, I've got this pair of trousers and I think they might fall apart if I go abroad in them. So can I stay here? Yeah, you can because of your trousers. You know, that's the ludicrous kind of reason that people get allowed to stay. It's absurd. Yeah, here's one again from Brian. The chicken nuggets. Why don't we grant British citizenship to the foreign nuggets? So the boy will then be eating British nuggets in Albania. What you mean? Hang on. No, that wouldn't work. We'd have to get British nugget makers to go to Albania. Maybe we could find some Albanians to deport. Oh, no, that wouldn't work, because we never deport any, do we? Who make chicken nuggets, send them back to Albania, and then this kid could get all the British-style chicken nuggets that he could ever dream of. It's insane, isn't it? Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Mark in London. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Kevin. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right.
What I can't work out is these have all come across and got British citizenship. They've lied about who they are. They've lied about where they come from. They're given British citizenship. How do we know who they are?
Well, yeah, you're right. This guy, Clevis Disher, who's now 39, he came here in 2001. He lied about his age. He lied about where he was from. He came with no documents. He said he was a 15-year-old entering the country from the former Yugoslavia. He wasn't from the former Yugoslavia. He was an Albanian. Whether or not he was actually 15, who knows? Anyway, he came in under a false name, lied where he came from. But by 2007, guess what? We made him a citizen. And then he was jailed for 2 years in 2017 because he had 250 grand, £250,000 in hard cash that he couldn't account for. So he did 2 years in jail, proceeds of crime. When he came out, Priti Patel wants to deport him. Two courts said that he couldn't be deported. Finally, an appeal court said you can't deport him because his kid doesn't like foreign chicken nuggets. I mean, it's a bit more complicated than that, but he should just be on his way. I don't care about his family. I don't care about his kids and his wife. He's the one that put them in trouble. And if he hasn't got the responsibility to act properly in this country, and he goes and breaks our laws and he goes to jail, I'm afraid his family should pay the consequences. Simple as that, right?
Yeah, Kevin. And the other thing is, when he was faming out, was it £250,000?
Yeah, £250,000.
I bet he's still claiming benefits and all.
Almost certainly. You can rest assured of that. I'll tell you what, Mark. This country is going to hell in a handcart, and most of these decisions are made by deranged judges who have taken leave of their senses. We need to do something about these judges. You say, you say he doesn't like British chicken nuggets. Well, in that case, a deportation is out of the question. It is deranged, it is mad, it is insane. Mark, good to talk to you, mate. Call me again. Mark in London. Let's go to break, come back, more calls, more messages.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is talk.
A couple of solutions to the chicken nugget conundrum. Michelle makes a good point. Maybe we could deport this family and then offer to send them chicken nuggets on a monthly basis. It would be much cheaper than keeping them. It's good. I like that lateral thinking. Well done, Michelle. Very good idea. Chicken nuggets whistling their way from Britain to Albania to keep this 10-year-old kid happy. And by the way, you know, in the end, I don't mean to be heartless, but I couldn't give a toss whether or not he likes the taste of foreign chicken nuggets or he prefers the taste of British chicken nuggets. Why is that even a thing? That shouldn't be in the courts. Apparently he's a vulnerable kid. There are other factors as well, but it should never have been allowed to be introduced. And for a judge to sit there and say, oh, he doesn't like foreign chicken nuggets. Well, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. He can stay. This family can stay on the chicken nugget clause. 03444991000. Before we go to the phones, we've got some WhatsApp voice notes here. First of all, Anna on the Labour Party.
Evening, Kev. They don't hate us, they fear us. You have to ask yourself, Labour has, as of this morning, 400 MPs. You have to try to control a population of 60 million people with just 400 of you. The clock's ticking. 400 people, handful of Marxist power-mad judges under their cosh, I would say. How long do they keep a lid on a simmering, angry, white working-class population who have just about had enough?
It's well put, Anna. People have had just about enough, and I agree with you. They do fear us, but they also hate us. So it's a hate and fear. They fear the power of the people. I think basically that politicians, modern politicians, the lot we've got in Westminster now, they are still struggling to come to terms with the very concept of the social media age. What they can't take is that the public can hit them and can hit them hard fast. They make a mistake and we are all over social media. They're still living in the 1970s where once you vote them in, that's the end of our say in the matter. You've just got to put up with it. Well, no more. That's what they can't deal with. They can't deal with the power of the people and the power that social media has bestowed upon the people. We have a lot of power now, and politicians are terrified of social media. So they're terrified of us and they hate us too. So not a good combo. Let's go to the phones, and it's Tarquin time. Tarquin in London. Hi, Tark. How are we doing?
Kevin, how are you, sir?
Very, very well. Now, what would you like to say today?
I believe you're wearing a spiffer top pinstripe suit today, from what Alex was saying. Is this
well, no, it's a pinstripe shirt, I suppose, if there is such a thing as a pinstripe shirt. It's a striped shirt. I usually wear white shirts. Alex was very astute in observing that, but today it's a striped shirt. Let's talk about this, shall we?
I'd appoint you to my cabinet any time.
Because of my shirt, for no other reason but that. Right, let's talk about Andrew Gwynn. What would you like to say, mate?
And the fact that you created dirty den people. Did you know this man created the dirty den phrase? So clever.
Yeah, that's the pinnacle of my achievement in life.
No, it's amazing. It's an erstwhile kind of.
Do you want to know? Do you know what? So in journalism we call the intro. It's the first paragraph, right? So just to put it in context, this was many years ago, back in the 80s, and the big whodunit on EastEnders at the time was that Michelle was pregnant, but who had made her pregnant? That was the buzz. Who everybody asking. So this was the day it was revealed, and my intro was this. Why do I remember this? It was the answer to telly's most talked about teaser was revealed last night. Dirty Den, the Queen Vic landlord done it. There you go. That, mate, is quality journalism.
I love that alliteration up the front end with the T's.
Well, you got on the Sun. You got to do alliteration. You have to do that. But Dirty Den, my contribution to the national vocabulary.
Well,
there you go.
It won't be the last, Kevin. Your show is doing marvellously well. You do need a Sony, but we're working on that, aren't we?
Yeah, well, I'll leave that to you because it never seems to work with me. Let's talk about Andrew Gwynn. What do you want to say?
Right, but just a quick point on this, Kevin. What's your take on this? Right? Is there any sort of material difference between the following? The people that got rather aerated back in July, saying things on social media that have subsequently were fast-tracked to the full force of the law into a jail cell.
Far-right thugs. Yeah.
Yes, the far-right thugs. And the current set of student union Marxists that have been exposed in a WhatsApp group. What's the difference? To me, it's almost the same thing. They've been caught. They should be fast-tracked into a cell.
Well, I think they will be. I mean, I'm kind of torn on this. I definitely feel Andrew Gwynn and Oliver Ryan deserve to be sacked, and they're going to lose their political careers over this, obviously. And they deserve to, because they're so stupid to write all this down. A part of me wants people to be able to have this kind of WhatsApp group and talk among themselves. But if you get caught, that's your fault. So if you're silly enough to commit to print, some of these jokes and some of these nasty opinions, if you get caught, you can't complain. But I'll tell you what I do think it reveals, Tak, is this. I think it's exactly that they just hate the Labour supporters. They hate Labour voters. They hate white working class Labour voters. And so does Keir Starmer. That's why he calls them all far-right thugs. Yeah. This problem with Andrew Gwynn and Oliver Ryan speaks to the epicentre of the Labour Party's problems and the Labour government's problems, is they hate the people that vote for them.
Yep. Totally agree. That was the point, really, Kevin. I just couldn't bear thought. How come poor old Peter Lynch, he's now dead, and these people are living? I mean, I'm not saying... Peter
Lynch, sure. Well, there's a lot that, they're not going to get out of this very soon, but the Andrew Gwynn and Oliver Ryan problem is a big problem for Labour, because it is more than just a couple of stupid northern MPs writing silly things on WhatsApp, nasty things on WhatsApp. It is a scraping away of the veneer that hides the truth about the Labour Party in terms of their elite. Their elite politicians don't like the people who vote for them, and that is a recipe for disaster. Tak, always a pleasure. Good to talk to you, Tak Gwynn in London there. I think we've got time. Let's go to another very good caller, regular caller, Herbie in Harrow. Hi, Herbie, what would you like to say?
Good evening. Oh, Kevin, where'd you start? Listen, Labour's completely out of control and lost everything. I think it's now the new manifesto, I think, of the Labour Party, that if you haven't voted, if you're elderly and you haven't voted Labour, you should die. Thank you very much. That's all we need to know. That's how much they think of us. If you don't vote Labour, you should die. How dark can these people
They hate old people, don't they?
God, do they hate everybody? What are you talking about, Kevin?
But Herbie, they specifically hate old people because, with some justification, they believe old people don't vote Labour and they all voted Brexit. And if you want the Labour Party to hate you, just say you voted Brexit. But this sort of contempt they have for the electorate, that's what's revealed by these Andrew Gwynn, Oliver Ryan WhatsApp notes, that these too many Labour MPs have utter contempt for their constituents, for the people who vote for them, for the white working class that used to make up the vast majority of Labour supporters. They don't like these people.
Yeah, but Kevin, the problem is that it's not the world gone crazy, it's the people running it and the people in it making the decisions. I was up at the Westminster today with the farmers, and they were great people. I mean, it was absolutely packed solid. And when you look at it, the government's taking away the money from the farmers to give it to overseas countries. Forget about us. Let's feed the world and don't let us die and starve. This is what it looks like to me.
I think you're exactly right, Herbie. We have a government that is all wired up wrong. They're all wired up wrong. Alex Phillips was on earlier. She said that she believes their problem is they're thick. They're certainly not very astute, put it this way. They don't seem to understand this country. They don't understand what needs to be done with this country. They've got no idea about economics. They've got no idea about finances, no idea about our decaying culture. And as for the migrant crisis, oh my God, where do you start? It is an absolute basket case from start to finish. Herbie, another great call. Thank you very much. Call me again. I know you will. Herbie in Harrow there. Let's go back. Well, we're going to take a break now, and when we come back, rest of the show, phone calls and messages. I've got another WhatsApp to play you as well. So quite a lot still to come. Petri Hoskins will be in pretty soon to tell you what she's got lined up for your entertainment after 10 p.m, so stay tuned for that. Be back in a moment. Stay where you are.
Why on earth are we being run by people who allow this kind of nonsense to go ahead? It's the page one story in the Telegraph today. An Albanian criminal who can't be deported despite being a recidivist criminal and somebody who has committed multiple crimes here since he became a British citizen many years ago in 2006 or 7. He can't be deported to Albania because his 10-year-old son doesn't think he'd like the chicken nuggets there. He only likes British ones. I kid you not, this is actually a story in this country in 2025.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Pete the Mole sent me a message there saying, Kev, please don't keep calling it we when you talk about the government. They are not us. You think I'm talking about the Labour government? We, as if I'm something to do with the Labour government. Pete, I think you're not listening to this show properly. No, I did not include them. So if I was doing what you said, sort of incorporating the Labour government and saying we, you'd be quite right to criticise me, but that would never happen in a month of Sundays. So thanks, but no thanks. And Smudge Smith says, he's from Swindon, he says, we are rapidly approaching a situation where our children do not believe in the value of country and patriotism. Very good point, Smudge. Modern people value only their own perception of belonging. I joined the RAF at 15 years old in 1969. when ordered I had no problem. A flying accident ended my career. I should be ashamed of my service. No, you shouldn't, Smudge. No, you shouldn't. Thank you for your service. Let's go back to the phones. Oh, actually, before we do that, here's another WhatsApp voice note. This is Karen on the migrants.
Hi, Kev. I think that judicial activism is becoming a significant problem in this country and is also making us a laughing stock to the rest of the world. The decisions that they're making are incredibly stupid. And I think we also need to take legal aid away from illegal immigrants. You came into this country illegally, then unfortunately you don't get legal aid, you leave and you're deported.
Couldn't agree more, Karen. Judicial activism, I like that phrase. That's what we're talking about. I think these judges, they're all Guardian readers, and they see themselves as sort of taking a bold stance against the repressive, racist state that is keen to get rid of every single migrant because they're awful foreigners and it's racist. No, no, no. For example, we want to get rid of that Albanian guy because he's a criminal who just did 2 years in jail. You come here, I don't care if we make you a citizen or not. You break our rules, you break our laws, you show us that discourtesy, you go to jail, then you leave. And if that means your family have to go with you, tough luck. We've got to get tougher on all this. It's getting ridiculous. Let's go back to the phones and let's talk to Janice in Essex. Hello, Janice.
Hi, Kevin. You know how much I love you. Thank you for taking my calls.
Always a pleasure.
And I've got to say, thank you for your channel, and there's one other channel that listens to common sense. The rest of them have no idea what's going on. How can you turn around and say young people won't fight for this country purely because we think we're racist?
Yeah,
when I was born in 1951, I learnt what racist was in 1954. I thought we'd moved on, but we seem to be going backwards. What is going on?
Well, I think it's a good point, Janice. We have an obsession with racism now. We have an obsession.
Ridiculous.
Well,
I've got a racist bone in my body.
Yeah, I know, but the chattering classes, the middle classes, people who belong to the
Is it?
Well, no, hang on a second, I haven't finished yet. They are the people. They are the people who think that we're all racists. They think this country is full of racists, and they're wrong.
I think that's sad.
Well, it's sad, but it's true. That's what they think. But I'm telling you, they are wrong.
We need people like you to shout it out, then.
Yeah, well, this is one of the least racist countries on the face of the earth.
Oh,
that's what. It's true.
I think it's going to turn.
It is true.
The worm will turn.
Well, this is not a racist country. You don't want it to be a racist, do you?
Absolutely not. I saw it at the age of 4.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought I'd never see it at the age when I got 40.
I still don't think this is
gone. I thought it was gone.
Well, you'll never get rid of racism completely. It's always going to be here. But this, in the grand scale of things, this is a very un-racist country. It's a very tolerant country. Go to America, then you'll find out a country that's not very tolerant about racists. Every city, the various ethnic communities live in their own areas. The whites live here, the blacks live there, the Hispanics live there, and never the three shall meet. That's the way it works in America, pretty much segregated. We're not like that here, but Keir Starmer and his gang thinks we're all racists, and it's not true. Janice, keep on calling. Good to talk to you. Thank you. Janice in Essex. Let's go to Ben in Guildford. Hello, Ben.
Hi, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I got a note from you saying migration, we can't afford it. Good point.
Yes. No, we can't afford it. We're paying for it, and it is increasing. So the amount we can't afford is increasing per annum per migrant.
Well, it's costing us billions and billions of pounds every year.
Well, I've been on here before talking about if you legalise cannabis, stop illegal migration, actually the deficit will be sorted by the end of the Labour government. But let's not forget we did invite socialists.
Yeah.
One thing I'm really keen on is to make sure that people in men's prisons who get transgender surgery make sure they get the right flavour of chicken nuggets for their liking.
Yeah, well, these are the important issues, Ben. Basically, blokes should go to blokes' prisons, and I don't care, whether or not you've transed or whatever you call it. Blokes go to blokes' prisons because women aren't safe. It's been proved if you send men to women's prisons. But that's another area of insanity in this increasingly insane country. Ben, good to talk to you. Let's quickly talk to Frank in Bristol. Hello, Frank. Hello, mate. Hello.
What they've been...
Hello.
What they've been... Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Lovely. What they've been doing for 70, 80 years is what I call the toffee hammer technique. A nice, quiet little toffee hammer. They've been tapping away.
Right.
Breaking everything down they can.
Yeah. Breaking down traditional British culture, yeah.
Yeah, breaking everything traditionally British down. Brainwashing children, brainwashing authoritative organisations, filling councils full of extremists, because that's what they are. Now we've got to a point, they don't need the toffee hammer now, they've got a sledgehammer.
Yeah, they've done it, haven't they? You're right, you're right.
It down.
Frank, you're right, and now we've got all the extremists in the government. They're extreme socialists. Frank, call me again, but I've got to go now because the show's nearly over. But good to talk to you. Thank you for the call. Frank in Bristol there, making some good points, I think. And Petri Hoskin is in the studio. Hello.
Hello. How are you? Good weekend?
Yeah, quiet, but good, yeah.
Yeah, well, when you get to your age, I suppose. Quiet is good. Anyway.
Sorry, there's an outbreak of hilarious humour. What a loss to the stand-up comedy tour Petri is.
I was just going to add that it is in mine.
Have you got any more hilarious jokes? How was your weekend?
It was great for an old lady, thank you.
OK, all right. You were going to bring yourself in, were you? Yeah, OK.
Right, what I'm going to be talking about is the tariffs and the potential for a global trade war.
Yeah.
And who benefits from this? It seems that China's going to do pretty well out of it. It's got a glut of aluminium at the moment.
Yeah.
How could this escalate and how will it actually affect us? And are those blanket 25% reasonable? We've got yet to hear the detail from Trump, so I'm hoping that we'll see some detail now-ish, actually. He's signing some more executive orders, so hopefully we'll get more
it depends
detail.
how the countries react, isn't it? I mean, the thing about Trump, with China, it was 10%, but he threatened 25% on Canada,